We're going to get started this morning. I'm going to have our Executive Director, Peter Manting, come on up, and he's going to do some introductions for us.
Well, good morning, Lighthouse Keepers.
Good morning.
Yes, you are what we call our modern Lighthouse Keepers. You're our class of 2019. Thank you for your willingness to be with us again, or for those who are new, for choosing us to start your lighthouse keeping experience. The mission of SPLCA is to preserve, promote, and educate the public, and to make our lighthouses accessible to all. I'm Peter Manting. I'm the Executive Director of the Savo Point Lighthouse Keepers Association. I've been here, this will be my 6th season, so I'm almost about 5.5 years into it. So it's been a wonderful experience for me. I enjoy meeting all of our keepers, and we have wonderful volunteers. I come from a business background. I was in business for over 30 years. And then in between the business and being here, I worked with special needs kids for 5 years at the Ottawa Area Center in Zealand. So with autistic young men and then severely multiply impaired students. And I apologize for my voice this morning. I didn't have any voice this weekend, so it's getting better. I want to introduce my staff. I've got a wonderful staff. And our first one on staff is Matt Barnum. Matt, come up here. Matt is our resident at the White River Light Station. He's our curator. And Matt, I think this is Matt's 7th season with us as an employee, and 8th season, right? Or yep. Something with us on staff as Matt was an intern. Our next person is Jim Hardy. And Jim is our restoration and maintenance supervisor. We're going to have to get into the viewing area there a little bit. Okay, and Jim is with us. This is his 5th season with us. And so we appreciate everything. You'll appreciate all the new things that you'll see, the new paint and furniture at Little Sable and the paint at Big Sable and all of Jim's handiwork that he did this winter. So you'll be pretty impressed. Carol Cooper is our bookkeeper, and this is Carol's 3rd year with us. Carol keeps things in order in our books, and so we appreciate that very much. And then standing behind me is Rachel. You all know Rachel. She's our operations person, and she's also our gift shop manager. And this is Rachel's 5th season with us. So. And then our birthday girl today is Cherie Hockenberger. I wouldn't remember that, but it was in my notes from last year. Cherie is our assistant director, assistant to me, and also our office manager. And this is your 5th season as well.
It is.
Right, yeah. So, good. So, well, thank you very much. You'll hear more from the staff as your training goes on. So we have an exciting season ahead of us. This season we have some new exhibits at each of our lighthouses, which will enhance our visitor experience. Lots of paint and plaster on the walls. Have freshened up Big Sable and the Little Sable Keepers Quarters residents. And not everything is done today. So you'll see that too, but at each of our lights we're working to make sure that each of our lights are ready for opening day. There was a little ice out on the pier lately, so we really haven't been out to the breakwater yet. So this is the first week with no ice on the breakwater. So I'm here to remind you that you're to help us to meet our mission. And that mission again is to preserve, promote, and educate the public and to make our lighthouses accessible to all. So if you could repeat that with me. The mission of SPLCA is to preserve, promote, and educate, and make our lighthouses accessible to all. Thank you. You are the people that our visitors to the lights will have the most contact with. As a staff of 6, we cannot physically greet everyone who comes in to view our lights. but you can. And I'm here to challenge you and to guide you through this process. You are the eyes and hands and feet of Splica. We need you at your best when you're greeting our guests. Yes, you heard me right. Those who come to our lights are not visitors. We're throwing that term away now. They are our guests. To quote Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast, be our guest, put our service to the test. Those of you who come to our lights for the first time, or those who come to our lights for the first time, or maybe the 100th time, need to feel like they're our guests. They are your guests. As modern day lighthouse keepers, you are on stage. You're the character in this interactive historical setting or stage, and you're there to make sure that our guests have an awesome experience. This is the Disney way. Remember, we too are competing for the summer visitors. If one of our guests has an awesome experience, they will tell others, and then more guests will come. Splica manages 4 lighthouses on the eastern shores of Lake Michigan: Big Sable Point Lighthouse, the Ludington Breakwater Lighthouse, and they're located in Ludington. A little farther south is the Little Point Sable Lighthouse, located in Silver Lake, and the White River Light Station in Whitehall. Big Sable welcomed over 18,000 guests last summer, while the Breakwater Light had upwards of 10,000. Little Sable had just over 25,000 guests, and White River shy of 5,000. So just a little over 58,000 guests to our four lighthouses in 2018. And I heard lots of good things. Everybody had a wonderful time because of our awesome lighthouse keepers that tend our lights and treat everyone that comes to these magnificent castles on the lakeshore like they were our guests. We as a Splica staff will provide you with the tools that you need to succeed. We're providing training today. You'll get more when you arrive, and your new keepers will be paired up with seasoned keepers who will help you through the rough spots that you might encounter. You will learn that Big Sable Point and Little Sable Point are pronounced Sable, not Sable. Sable means sand, so we have Big Sand Point and Little Sand Point, but when you say it in French, Sable sounds a lot more classier. They are the 2 closest points on the eastern shores of Lake Michigan to Wisconsin. You might even learn and remember that the only funding for a lighthouse that was approved by Congress between 1860 and 1864 was that for Big Sable Point Lighthouse. Unfortunately, the Civil War was taking all the Union's funds at the time, so they were not appropriated until after the war, and the light was built in 1867. Remember, when you are in the public, you are on stage, so we ask that you bring your A game to the stage every day. We know you need some downtime as well, so take your breaks, as everyone needs downtime. Eat your lunch, check your emails off stage. You are professionals. Splica, with your help, will be hosting many events throughout the summer at the lighthouses. We have information cards that are hot off the press, and they're on the back table there when you walked in. So take those, and they'll be available for our guests as well. And take advantage of your days off and all the activities that are going on in the area. Once again, it's my pleasure to welcome you today, and thank you for volunteering your service to help Splica meet its mission to again preserve, promote, and educate the public and make our lighthouses accessible to all.
And next we're going to have Bob Balzer come up, who's the president of our board.
Let me tell you, I had it all scripted out, but Pete has taken all my thunder. So that's okay. I don't have to be up here as long as I had intended to be. But just out of curiosity, how many people are new? This is your first year? Fantastic. And the rest, I'm assuming, are experienced coming back for the 3-year refresher training. To the new folks, thank you very much. You had lots of opportunities to do different things, be with your family over the summer, spring break, and so forth. But you chose to come here. We appreciate it because it's you volunteers that make what we have today possible. It's all a volunteer organization. We have a great executive director. He's been with us now going on 6 years. And because of his hard work and his staff, his dedicated staff, we're like the epitome of lighthouse organizations in Michigan. Many of the other lighthouses come to us, come to Pete, and the staff to figure out what they need to do and how they need to operate. So we've got a great organization and welcome you on board. What we hope to accomplish today is for you new folks to become a little bit more familiar with our organization, and you'll do that throughout the day, like Pete said. You'll have some training, but you'll actually be able to go out, see the residences of where you're going to stay and how that's set up, and potentially you can see some of the lighthouses that are available. Like I said, Pete said there's some ice on the one downtown, but
I walked it this morning, it's good.
okay. Well, that's fantastic. So that's the purpose of today, is to let you, I'm sure you all Googled, right? Everybody Googles, and you've learned about our organization. We've got a great website, but now you'll be able to put hands on and actually see. And so the other deal is, I don't want you to leave today with any questions that you might have. And you're going to be thinking of them after you leave even too, and then call into the office and we'll try to get those answered. But we want to answer as many questions so that when you leave here, you're comfortable. You've been, an introductory to our training program. We're going to give you some first aid information, and then how we treat our guests that come to the Lighthouse. Let me introduce, there's 7 of us on the staff, on the board of directors, and our purpose on the board is to lay out a strategic plan for the organization and provide the staff the support they need to execute the plan. That's basically what we do. And we meet periodically through the spring and summer months mostly. During the winter, when the lighthouses are closed, we don't meet, but now with technology, we've incorporated Zoom or something to that effect so we can talk to one another and have meetings even through the winter months. We have 3 other board members that are here. I see Roger Pashby is our treasurer. If you want to come up. Lenore Janman, secretary. Lenore Janman is on the board. Al Caccone, where's Al? He's here. Yeah. So we're the only 4 here. The other 3 couldn't make it. We actually have 1 board member is out in South Dakota. I mentioned that for a couple of reasons. Mark's going to join us at our meeting on Zoom when we get down to the office. So if any of you, as you get more familiar with the organization, feel like you have an interest in being on the board of directors, there's 7 members. 7 members on the board, and we rotate members. You're on for 3 years, and we rotate 1 or 2 people every year, so that the cycle continues. So if you're ever interested, fire off an email, and we'll get you taken care of. Roger, did you all have anything to say? Roger, Lenore?
Anybody here because I encourage you to come here?
There are people here because Bob encouraged them to come.
Yep.
Right here. From
We,
Columbus, Ohio.
We spend the winters in Alabama, and we get run into people from Wisconsin, Michigan, and everywhere, and we encourage them to come up here and volunteer. They sit dormant all winter, so they got all summer exercise up here. But I encourage people wherever we go to get involved as volunteers. Because you're volunteers, we have a Lighthouse Association. So thank you.
I'll just say this is a great organization. I've been involved since 2005. And I worked at 3 of our lights out of the 4. And I can't tell you how many wonderful friendships I've made through my experiences of working. And I hope that you have that same wonderful experience of meeting new friends, new people, and doing it in a location that can't be beat. So just enjoy your time in Columbus.
Al?
So my wife and I have been members of SPLCA since 2003. We too have done 3 of the 4. The only one we haven't been to as volunteers is White River. In my experience, this is a great thing, and the longer you're part of it, and the more you do, the more you get involved, and you really get sucked into it, which is a good thing. The only other comment I'm going to make is we have a tremendous staff, and they deserve and need your support, so please give them your support.
All right, so just a few more introductions and then we're going to move on. I do have some interns for the summer that work with us. We have Sharon Edgar, come on up, so everybody can put your face with your name.
Kind of old for an intern.
So Sharon has just joined us within the last couple weeks, and she's been helping with tagging merchandise and getting things ready to go out to the lighthouses, because we had this meeting today, and the board is meeting in our conference room, and guess what? That's where all the merchandise ships into, and so we had to get it cleaned up and in shape for this weekend. We also have Heidi, come on up. Heidi is she's going to be starting with us this next week, and she's going to be helping us get the other two lights ready to go. And then we have Bethany. And Bethany's still away at college, but she'll be coming back and getting on board with us soon as well. And then Jim has a summer help this year for the maintenance department, Mark, and he was unable to be here today. But they're all helping us get everything ready and up for the season, because as you can imagine, when it's time to open, everything has to happen, and so we need some extra hands and bodies. And then throughout the season, when you guys need things at different lights and we can't be at every lighthouse, then these ladies will be helping out, and you'll see Jim and Mark helping with maintenance projects, because Jim can't be at 2 different lighthouses helping, so it's nice to have extra hands for the summer. So welcome, ladies. All right, and then coming up next, we have some representatives from the state parks from here in Ludington, and then the Silver Lake State Park to come up and share some information from you. So from Ludington, I'm going to welcome Dan Adams and Alan Mornett to come on up, and they'll tell you a little bit about the state park here in Ludington.
Good morning. I'm Dan Adams. I'm the park supervisor here. I've been here since 2008, so a few years experience here. I just want to first of all say thank you for volunteering. Without your volunteer efforts, we wouldn't have the light open to the public, which would be a shame. So I'm very thankful that you guys do that so that we can have this light open. It's very popular, and the work that everybody has done to get the lighthouse in the conditions is amazing. So thank you for that. I want to encourage you, those of you that haven't been here before, get out and explore the park. This park is amazing. We've got 5,300 acres of sand, water, woods, you name it. We've got a little bit of everything here. So feel free to get out and explore it as much as you can. Attend some of Alan's programs. He gives some great programs about the history and the science and nature that we have here in this park. So you can learn a lot from Alan, especially the history. This park has a lot of history in it. Rachel's going to go over all this stuff, but a couple of the main things that we have had issues with in the past. It hasn't really been an issue in the last few years. We finally, I think, got it all worked out. But probably the most unique thing about this light is you have to drive 2 miles to get to it, which can create conflict because everybody else has to walk. All our park users have to walk to it if it's not a bus day. So strongly encourage you or ask you not to drive on that Lighthouse Road between 10 and 5 during the operational hours, because there's a lot of people walking, pushing strollers, in wheelchairs, you name it. The road is very busy, and when you're coming through in a car, those people have to get out of your way, which can cause problems for them, and it kind of puts you in an awkward spot because they're all staring at you and giving you the thumb to hit your ride. So please try to stay off that road. The other thing is, a lot of times we get people that make that 2-mile hike and they go, oh man, I'm tired, I can't make that walk back. Well, encourage them to get some water, take a rest, and do their best to make that walk back, because we can't provide a ride for people. And we really ask that you guys don't give a ride to people, because once you've given one person a ride, it just snowballs from there. So there are some extreme circumstances where we may make an exception and come get somebody, but that's going to be, like I say, extreme circumstances, and you'd have to talk to somebody at the office first before we do that. But it can be done, but we really encourage people to do their best to make that hike. That's why whenever we talk to people and we put it on the signs and we let people know, hey, it's 2 miles one way, and it can be a long hike. So those are probably the 2 main things. Rachel will go over a lot of the other stuff. A lot of the questions that come up, we ask that you try to funnel them through Rachel first. Just so you're not calling the park and tying up our staff and phone lines, because she's gonna have 99.9% of the answers for you. So try to go through her first, so. As far as park or operation wise, does anybody have any questions or anything?
Drones?
Drones, yeah, good point. Drones are becoming more and more popular, and the price of them is going down. So they're really getting popular in the parks. They are not allowed around the light for a couple reasons. One, it's a historical structure. We've had drones run into it before. We don't need that because it can cause damage. But more importantly, when it hits something and falls out of the sky, it's got blades spinning and it can hurt people. So it's our policy that first, we can't have it around the historical structure, and you also cannot fly them in the park around people. So that eliminates the beaches anywhere where there's a lot of people. If people want to do it out in the dunes where, where there's not a lot of people, we do allow them, but just in those certain locations, but not around people or the lighthouse. So.
Unless they have a permit, and they have to show you that permit.
There may be a few times where there is a special permit where somebody's doing a special promotional thing, but there won't be any surprises there. We will know about it. Peter or Rachel will be involved. So it can happen, but even then they don't do it during the busy times just because it can cause conflict. Also, we don't allow it on the beaches at all because we have piping plovers here, which is an endangered species. And that flying drone could look like a predator to them and really disturb those birds. So we don't allow them on the beaches at all.
So if we see somebody flying a drone or something of that sort, what role should we have?
If you feel comfortable with it, if you can find the person, first of all, we have a hard time finding the operators. They could be a mile away with some of the more expensive ones. But if you feel comfortable with it and are willing to go talk to them, explain to them that it's not allowed here, that would be, and if they cooperate, that's great, problem solved. If they don't cooperate, call the park, and we will send an officer out there to deal with the situation. But it could take a while for somebody to get there. So if you can stop it right from the beginning, most people are cooperative. They don't realize that it's against the rules. They're so popular now. But so that'd be the first thing, is if you're willing to go talk to them.
Was that a recent change?
The last couple of years, as they've really been fine. I think our policy has existed, for a couple of years, and that policy is something that came up, through our Parks and Rec division that they created.
So last October, and there were several people out.
Yeah, and a lot of people think.
Well, they were here early in the morning for summer.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got sucked into watching them.
Right.
It's becoming more and more popular, especially.
Yeah. Most people think that our park rules only apply from Memorial Day to Labor Day. If they're outside that window, there's no rules. So in October, it becomes an issue. We get that argument a lot. Well, it's Labor Day, so there's no rules. But the rule always applies. You have a question?
Yeah, the same policy for all locations or just the state park?
Other lighthouses?
Other lighthouses?
The other lighthouses same for all policy?
Well, at Silver Lake, I'm assuming they're following the same policy. As far as the other ones, they're not on state lands. I don't know what rules they're following for the other ones, but that's a state park policy, so.
Yeah, Fruitland Township has no objection to it at White River.
Are they considered historical landmarks anyways, so they would fall under that?
Well, that's a Parks and Recreation Division policy, that we don't want them around our historical structures, where those fall on other lands, so that would be up to the local jurisdiction, or for you guys to make your own
Yeah, the
rules.
city has not told us,
Okay.
yes or no.
At Little Salvo last year, we had several weddings on the beach, and the videographers were using drones as a part of, videotaping the wedding. I mean, is that, if they're doing the wedding on the beach, I mean, is that considered acceptable, or should we actually go out there and talk to them?
Well, I don't know what ceremony. Maybe save that question for Josh, because he works at Silver Lake.
Oh, okay.
We don't allow weddings at the lighthouse here
Oh, I
in the
see.
park, so. But yeah, so save that question for Josh. I don't know how they're handling it. So yeah.
How far off the beach can you have one? I've seen, there's a lot of video online where it goes off the point, around the point.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a gray area. It's hard to tell exactly where they're at. Our policy says they're not supposed to fly over people. And if the operator is on the land, that thing had to take off from somewhere. So they've got to be flying near people or near the structure. But the whole area on the Lake Michigan shoreline is protected because of the piping plovers. So we don't want them on the shoreline at all. At least during the main season of that piping clovers, which is most of summer. Yeah. Somebody.
I had just a comment. I just want to thank you for providing recycling for the campground.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is also
welcome.
for the Lighthouse.
Right, yeah, but we keep trying to encourage that more and increase it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any improvements in funding for state parks this year, and any major improvements or things changes that you have made in the park this past year?
The past year, we have done a couple improvements, nothing glamorous, unfortunately. We have 2 new septic systems in the, which, I mean, we're excited about, and the park users, I guess, will be excited because the toilet's still flush. People don't realize how the infrastructure involved in all of that. But, so that was our 2 big things. So nothing that people are going to notice other than they get to keep using the bathroom. Funding wise, it's about the same. There haven't been any increases or decreases. It's just kind of holding steady. Revenues have gone up a little bit. Camping numbers have gone up, and sticker sales have gone up, but so have our costs. So it pretty much just keeps things even, unfortunately.
Just that you mentioned that, the sticker sales, is that doing a better job than it was when we used to check off on the taxes? When they started buying the license stickers?
Yeah, it definitely has. It has increased funding, and each year it creeps up a little bit more. So, yeah, it has definitely. I can't remember what the original expectation was, but it is above that now, so which is good. Yes?
Dan, isn't this the 100th anniversary of the state park system?
It is.
Yay.
Yes, I thought maybe Alan would cover that. He's going to do some
Okay,
things with it.
never
But yes, this year you'll see some literature and advertising and stuff. It's the 100th anniversary of Michigan State Parks. Interlochen State Park was created 100 years ago this year, this May. So.
Dan, the other thing, the acres from Sergeant Sand was acquired. So another major.
Yeah, I guess that was major. That was huge. Financially, the park gained 100 acres this year. Everybody knows, or at least you saw the big sand mining operation. As you're coming in the highway, all those structures and stuff, they are mining sand that is private property owned by the Sergeant Sand Company. The northernmost section of it was still untouched. They hadn't mined anything from it. And the state acquired the northern 100 acres this year. So that's exciting. They're still working on the rest of it. It's a start. It's 100 acres that is irreplaceable. It's, those sand dunes take a long time to create, and we're glad to get that. We hope to get more of it. The rest of it, the remaining acreage, has all been disturbed in one way or another, but we would still like to get our hands on it at some point.
Can you just quickly just throw out some stats in terms of how Ludington stacks up to the other state parks in terms of number of visitors and financial position and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, it varies year to year, but we get about 800,000 visitors. That's not the highest in the state. It's one of the highest, but not the highest. Camping, we are by far number 1, close to like 50,000 camp nights, which is the number 1 in the state, followed by Holland, I believe. So I mean, it's certainly one of the more popular state parks. We could probably, our numbers would be higher if we had more parking. We especially Lake Michigan parking lot, if the sun is shining, we turn people away 7 days a week during the summer, unfortunately. From that parking lot, and then quite often on the weekends, we will fill every parking spot in the park and actually have to turn people around at the booth. So it's very popular. And I think, 800,000 visitors compared to Peter's number, I think that number is way higher. That's just how many people climb the tower, right?
Yes,
You're going to see a lot more people than that, because almost everybody that comes here goes out and at least looks at the light, goes through the gift shop, and just hangs out there. So it's a very popular spot. Did that answer your question? Okay. Alan? This is Alan, our park interpreter. He can talk a little bit about what he does.
Go ahead and fill me in if I forget something. The interpreter's job is the educational aspect of the state park here. So I communicate the natural and cultural resources of Ludington State Park to as many visitors as I can reach, either personally, my staff, or through signage. If you go out to the Lighthouse here, you see the signage on the way out. That is something that I put together, we do, to try to reach as many people as possible. We want them to enjoy the park in every way possible, as long as there's some controls there. But we also want them to leave with some education. And so the signs going out talk about the sand dunes. When they get out there, they get the beautiful lighthouse, the tour of the lighthouse, they get that. So they're getting 2 for 1, we hope, opportunity when they come here. So that's my primary job. I do that on a year-round basis here at Ludington State Park. Now, I know at Silver Lake State Park, they have an explorer guide. She's a really good explorer guide, and Debbie, and she will do a fabulous, she always does a fabulous job. So we have an educational person, seasonal person at Silver Lake State Park too, also, that's doing programming. And if you're kind of wondering interpretation, I don't talk another language, that's not my big job. It's to interpret the resources for people. That's actually a National Park Service created that title for everybody, the interpreter, because we're interpreting the resources out here. And so not necessarily language. So get that cleared up right now. The Big Sable staff, Jim Galley, who's not here today, the park manager, and myself, we will try to get out and visit you folks that are at the Big Sable Lighthouse and talk to you. It's a casual thing. We'll just sit down with you. I don't get coffee, but Jim might. But I'll sit down with you and just throw out questions about the resources of the park. It might be history. It might be the natural resources. Things that you might people might ask you. You know, what about the shoreline? Why is there not much of a beach shoreline? Things like that. Questions, simple questions that we want to communicate with you so that you can communicate with the visitors. If you ever have a question asked to you and you don't know the answer, and that happens to me too, then I say, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer, but I will try to find the answer. I'll get the answer. Or you can go here and get the answer. So those are things that we would like you to remember when you're out there. There is a book out at the Big Sable. It talks about some of the resources and some of the history. We encourage you, and I know the staff does too, your staff, to look through that and become familiar with it, because those are the questions you'll get asked by the folks there. The point, like for instance, the point out here is actually wearing away. My son is actually a PhD student, he's passed that now, but he teaches coastal geography, and he's taught me a lot about how the point out here is wearing away, and it will continue to wear away, the point. And that lighthouse out here will become more and more of a peninsula over the next 100 years as that point wears away. That's just a natural fact. But people will look at photographs, you can show them that in their information too. And so those are educational aspects. You know, people are there to enjoy the beautiful lighthouse and go up the tower and see the vistas from up there. It's just gorgeous up there. So we'll be doing that through the summer. Jim and or I try to get out there at least on every 2 weeks. I don't know how it is at Silver Lake, if the staff has an opportunity to get out there, just talk, chit chat with you folks. This is the 100th celebration of Michigan State Parks. Interlochen was the first state park. And Ludington became officially a state park in 1936, even though it was purchased by the state, or given to the state, not purchased, actually given to the state in 1926. But it was 1936 that they officially opened Ludington State Park. So we're not the oldest state park, but we're not the youngest either. The state park has a fabulous history here of the CCCs. They actually had a Camp Pierre Marquette Ludington, and built the state park. The lighthouse is the oldest structure in the state park. It was here long before the state park existed. But the state park has accepted the land from the federal government and then leased it back to the Lighthouse Association. And you folks do a wonderful job taking care of that lighthouse and interpret it for the people. We appreciate that. That's huge for us because we don't have the staff to do that. And you guys could do a better job than what we could because we couldn't give it the time. So it is the 100th anniversary of the state parks, and that will be May 18th or something around there. Lansing has posters, they've given us some things, but I don't know of everything. Dan might know a little bit more of what but it's just gonna be kind of, you'll see posters around and flyers, but I don't know of any big shindig that they're gonna have
The main one is gonna be at Interlochen.
Yeah, main
The
one's
governor's
there.
gonna be there and do
Yeah.
kind of a.
But you'll see posters up, banners around the park that just say, but just to tell people this is the 100th anniversary of State Parks. I don't know if you wanted to add to that, if there's anything else.
No.
Yeah, that, so. You folks are our eyes and ears. You are our contacts to the public too. That's one of the things that I just had a meeting with he was here from Lansing, one of the supervisors in my area, and he appreciates everybody that's in the field, because those are the eyes and ears. Those are the people we're in contact with the people, the actual visitors. We're not in some cubicle in Lansing just hearing things and thinking up things. We're actually the people out hitting the road. So we appreciate that. We appreciate all of you, whether you're here at Ludington or at another park, another lighthouse. Remember that you folks represent the lighthouse keepers, and if you're at a park, you represent the park too. People don't know the difference. A lot of visitors don't know the difference between the park staff and you folks. Even though the title-wise there is, but we all view as all part of the team, and we like that reference. So keep that in mind. And have a good time. Enjoy your stay. And like Peter said, even on the days that you don't feel well or something's bothering you, you kind of put on that face and meet the people and not let that interfere with how you approach people. So again, thank you. Appreciate that.
Last year, we had a lot of rabies reported in the state. What's the level of the danger?
Okay, last year what happened, a lot of new people don't realize that, last year we had one of my staff people, there was a bat down here at the Lighthouse in the middle of the day, a 90-degree day.
Not the lighthouse.
Not the Lighthouse, the beach house. He was down here at the beach house doing a program, and someone came and said, hey, there's a bat out there, right out in the sun on a 90-degree day on the ground, and it's hissing at people. Well, he put on not a very good glove, and it got a box, and he went to put the bat in the box, and the bat bit him. Dan, I was off that day. Dan and the staff had him go right away to the hospital. Long story short, the bat had rabies, and he's one of the first cases in Michigan of actually having the actual bat and the person intact, both of them there. He went through that whole series of shots. He's doing fine. He's very active today working, but it was the first recorded case of rabies, so keep that in mind. If you see something that's doesn't look right, a bat, or it could any mammal, it could be a raccoon, anything, skunk or anything that just happens to show up in the middle of the day, I would give Dan and his staff a call right away and not try to handle it, keep people away, because those shots are painful, and the worst part is my staff person got very, very sick during those shots. That was the worst part of the whole thing for him. He got like the flu symptoms for like 3 or 4 weeks because it was so bad from the shots. Your body's trying to fight that stuff in the shots too. So make sure you contact, but don't pick up that. Rabies is on the increase throughout the whole state of Michigan. It's not just here. It's something. My sister is a veterinarian. She says Michigan has been extremely lucky. For several decades, we haven't had a high incidence of rabies, but Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio has had a high incidence of rabies, and now it's starting to move into our state too, in Michigan here. So just be aware of that. If the animal doesn't look right, something's wrong, then just, don't try to mess with it too much. Yes?
What number would we call?
The park number, you should have the park number out at the beach house, that you can get a hold of them, right?
Yes, everything will be posted, and we will give more detailed information at each lighthouse. When you arrive for your tour, you'll get all those details.
If you have an incident at home, and not here, at home, then you should call immediately the public health community. If they're closed, then you call the sheriff department. You've got to report this incident right away, okay? It's nothing to fool around with, because once the stages of rabies sets in, there's no going back and getting a cure for it. It's too late already. Yes.
I just have sort of a related question. In Ohio, we're having a lot of issues with distemper and raccoons,
Right.
which can be transmitted to pet dogs.
That's true.
Do you know if you guys are having that around?
Distemper is found in the state, but it's not on a scale that's right now an emergency, you know, that you, right.
Different topic. Last year in August, there was a lot of rock that showed up on the beach. It looked like volcanic rock. And I'm wondering if you know anything about that.
I'm pretty sure what you're talking about is coal slag. Okay, we don't have any natural geological humus or anything like that from volcanic in the Great Lakes region. What you're seeing is probably coal slag. Every so often we get coal slag, a piece wash up on shore. Not as much as usual, because the closest coal slag would be coming from the Badger.
This stuff was very light and airy.
Yes, yes. And we used to see more of it, but we're seeing less of it because now the Badger can no longer dump the coal slag right into the lake like they used to. For hundreds, or not hundreds, for decades, the car ferries were allowed to dump directly into the lake the coal slag after it's been burned, and that stuff, some of it's really, really light, and it washes ashore. But they're not allowed to do that anymore. EPA put a stop to that because that has some mercury, traces of mercury in it and stuff. So now they have to store it. But that's what you're most likely seeing that's coming from somewhere coal burning, which probably is the boat, the ship. And most ships today, except for the Badger, most ships are burn oil and they don't burn up. Have any other questions? Yes.
Oh, you were talking about rabies. Is this a bad year for ticks?
It depends. In the middle of the state, yes. I've read a report already. The tick population in the state of Michigan has increased also. That's another thing my sisters told me. Why Michigan hasn't had ticks is the Upper Peninsula has always had ticks really bad, but not the Lower Peninsula. But the area, other states around us, even the Upper Peninsula, they've had ticks populations, high populations for years. But now the Lower Peninsula is experiencing it. And it seemed to come up the coastline. I don't know if it's from the birds migrating or what, but it came up the coastline, and now it's spreading inland. And last year, we had ticks, but we didn't have nearly the number, I think, last year, that people were reporting ticks here. The number seemed to be down. It seemed like when they first come in, the population's high, and then it's kind of gone down. Now, inland, I just read a report a few weeks ago that the tick population in the middle of the state of Michigan is going to be bad this year for the first time. So it's kind of spread inward. I think there's natural controls, but it's just a matter of when that control sets in after a few years and the population goes down to a natural level. There's still ticks around. You still have to be worried about Lyme disease. That it's found in every county that has ticks has a few incidents of Lyme disease. It's like mosquitoes and the West Nile. You know, not every mosquito has West Nile, but there's a handful out there, just like ticks. And so you got to be concerned about that. Do you have the tick and Lyme information out there? Something to, I probably should get that out. We probably should get that out to all even to the Little Sable too. So people are aware. Ticks are found, and as a matter of fact, I find more ticks in the dune grass than I do back in the woods, believe it or not. That's where I seem to get them the most, is out in the open. So you should know about it and what the precautions are, what to look for. Because if you catch it early, you're fine. You can wipe it out. Antibiotics can take it right out. But if you let it go, it creates a lot of problems. Because I know a person that was a volunteer, she almost died. She got Lyme disease in Wisconsin. She was hiking. She didn't realize it. She let it go, and it got into her joints, and well, she came close to dying, because it was so bad. And once you get that bad, it always lingers with you, affects the rest of your life. But if you catch it early, knock it right out. It won't bother you the rest of your life. Yes?
Are there deer in the park?
Oh, are there deer in the park? There are a lot of deer in the park. And yes, people love to see the deer, and the deer are beautiful animals, but we have a high population of deer. And yet, we still have a hunting season here at Ludington State Park, but not enough deer are taken out during hunting season, so we have a high population. And as the interpreter, I can tell you, it's not good, because they're affecting the future forest. Our future forest here at Ludington State Park has been affected drastically, because the deer, that many deer have to eat, and when that many deer eat, they eat everything down to the ground, and the future trees are not there in a lot of places. So it's 100 years from now or 200 years from now, when I'm long gone, but it'll be interesting to see what the forest will look like in that time.
On your brochures for the trails, do you list the trails as moderate, easy, or difficult?
No, we really don't do that.
We get people that walk the 3.5 mile and they're exhausted.
I think the hardest trail to walk for most people is the Lighthouse Trail, the one that actually goes to Beechwood. That trail there, because there's so much open sand. And walking in that open sand for a mile or so, it just takes a toll on you. The easiest way to get to the Lighthouse, we tell people, is the road. Take the road, because it's harder packed surface, it's a lot easier, it's a lot shorter too, but no, we don't have that. We've talked about doing that, but it's just a matter of the, so. Anyway, I'd like to say thank you. And Rachel, you gotta cut off the interpreters, otherwise we're talking.
I'm waiting for you to look at me.
So, anyway, if you have questions, Dan and I, Josh, just don't be afraid to ask.
One more question. So, what do they call that disease, the deer have wasting?
Chronic waste disease.
Yeah, you have a lot of.
That's a whole program in itself.
It's not in our county.
It's not in our county yet,
Okay.
and we hope it doesn't get here. But it is a whole thing that the DNR, we have a whole program. I talked about it yesterday at the
So we don't have to
community
worry
college.
about that.
Yeah, yeah, don't worry about it here, at least not right now.
All right, good. We're gonna let Josh take over. Tell you a little bit more.
That's a tough one to follow up there. I'm Josh Smith. I'm the park supervisor at Silver Lake. Jody Johnston would be the park manager there. You've probably had some interaction with him at some point in time. Essentially, nothing's really changed for our lighthouse as far as if you've been there in the past. If you're new to the lighthouse, it's beautiful. Once again, thank you for volunteering for this. It's a big help to our park staff. We have 2 of our veteran state workers coming back this year, which should be really helpful at the booth there. We normally have 2 folks scheduled for Lighthouse, and they take turns out there, which you'll probably encounter during your shift when you're out there. They're very knowledgeable. They've worked here for at least 2 seasons is the least amount we have. Aaron, another fellow, has worked there for at least 5, so he's very knowledgeable. We do have a janitorial staff this season, so they should be able to keep up in the bathrooms a lot better this year than in the past. Essentially, if you have any issues out there, please call 911, especially if it's a medical emergency. Our Rangers radios are linked into the central dispatch system, so we'll get that message. It's vastly faster than calling the park itself. So, because a lot of times you call the park, and either you have poor cell reception, or it'll be essentially a little bit longer than we can get the message out. As for anything different, I guess improvement-wise, it'll mainly be superficial. We'll be doing some improvements to the parking lot, throwing some new coats of paint on the vault toilets. And then we do plan to, if you've ever been to that lighthouse area before in the parking lot, that turnaround at the end, we'd like to close that off because it's difficult to keep that open. And it's really hard for vehicles to navigate that just due to the sand erosion coming in for that. So that might add in 1 or 2 parking lot spaces. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure what we have in store for that, but that's probably going to be on the agenda for this year. You did have a question regarding wedding permits with those. Typically, when someone's out there for a wedding event, we have them come up to the office and fill out a permit. It may be a nominal or no cost to that, but they do have to do the permit because we might have another wedding scheduled that day. Sometimes people just kind of spring those on us and we don't know. So that's the best way. If they could either contact the park by calling it or come up to the office, that's just fine.
But the drone use by a wedding videographer is
that would be
appropriate and acceptable?
It would be based on the permit. Usually with drone use, we charge that $500 commercial filming permit along with that. That sometimes dissuades people, but they do have to go through that channel. Because we do have a lot of that, especially with the dunes. It's a different sort of permit that we go through. And that would have to be approved by Jody for any type of wedding situation, especially if it was by I guess for a wedding party or something in the commercial nature. Any other questions aside from that? Yes, sir.
Do you keep contact with the people on the tower during the day in case there's an emergency on the beach? For a person to climb all the way down and run up to the shed, if somebody's at the shed, either cell phone or, I don't know how the cell phones work there, they don't work.
Cell phone reception is typically poor.
Yeah, so you have walkie-talkie?
We have the 800 megahertz radios, which wouldn't really communicate with anything that you have. If you have, I've been advised there's a Coast Guard radio up there, or a Marine radio.
That's
Right.
correct.
Also might
And
be
they
our-
also have walkie-talkies, the keepers have walkie-talkies to communicate with each other.
Yep.
So the
Yeah.
top of the tower can radio to the gift shop and an extra person can go to the,
You don't put up a flag, red flag, yellow flag, green
No.
flag for beach conditions?
No, not for the beach condition, because it's not essentially one of our buoyed off swimming areas.
Okay.
So we don't do that portion. But yeah, if you have anything that's in dire need, we'll have an attendant out there most days.
Yeah.
If you're not able to call 911 on that one, and they would either have the radio where they can contact the ranger, or they would have cell phone available. But I'm just not sure. A lot of times with the service out there, it's pretty poor.
It doesn't take long to lose a body in a riptide.
Yeah.
The Coast Guard radio works really well.
Mhm.
In fact, they don't like our keepers to test it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had at least one instance in the past year or so where you've used the Coast Guard or Marine radio, and that got a hold of our central dispatch, who in turn got that message to us, and we were out there within, I guess, probably a very short amount of time. So that does work. So we've had some experience with that. Any other questions regarding Silver Lake? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming out. Like I said, you're a big help to our staff. We really couldn't do it without you. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
all right. Well, I want to thank them again for coming and representing our state parks, because we really have beautiful state parks that you all get to take advantage of while you're here volunteering as the Lighthouse keepers. So thank you guys for coming and sharing all that information with us. And Alan is a very interesting guy. You can tell he has a lot of knowledge, and you guys were just feeding right off from that. So thank you, Alan, for sharing with them.
Thanks for cutting me off.
Well, they're going to want a break soon, so I had to get up here for a little bit before break. So you all are here to volunteer, and we're going to start off talking about your role as a volunteer. So a volunteer is a person who does something, especially for other people or for an organization, without being forced or paid. That's all of you. Right? And as the operations manager, I thank you all so much, because when I start off the season and I have all these schedules laid out in front of me and they're all blank, sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming. And then as the applications start coming in and we start processing applications and those blanks become names, and most of you I know by name and a voice, but today I get to meet some of you and see your face, and others I'll meet when they arrive. But throughout the season, I'm continuously looking for volunteers and filling those blanks in. When it comes to about a week before, and we have a cancellation or we have openings, that's when I really start to fret. But again, I just start putting word out, emails go out to the people on the cancellation list, and anybody I can think of that might want to cover a date, I put it out there. And usually I might have to go home and sleep on it, and I come back the next day and I check my email and somebody's gotten back to me to fill in that spot. It always seems to work out. It's not always easy. I don't always leave work feeling good about it, but eventually it all works out. It's like, it's just amazing how it can happen. And just to touch a little bit on that, last year I had a situation where I had one person scheduled for a tour, and then we had these 2 empty spots, and it was around 4th of July, so you can imagine, and this was at Little Savo, so as you heard, 25,000 visitors last year. That's our busiest lighthouse. And I thought, oh boy, and I started recruiting and pulling people. Actually, I take that back. I thought it was the Breakwater Lighthouse, because Bob, our president, happened to be on tour at Big Sable, and their crew was there. I said, "Do you guys have enough bodies? Can I pull a couple of people? Can somebody fill in at the breakwater this week?" And Peter was going to go for a day, I was going for a day, and we were all trying to shift to make sure we had enough bodies to operate that lighthouse. And then out of the blue, I got a call from a lady out of Colorado who was traveling in for a family reunion, and she says to me, "You know, I volunteered before, I'm going to be around, I can't do a full week, but I thought if you had some availability somewhere, I could come and do a few days for you." And I just remember sitting there and my jaw fell. I was like, "Really? Oh my gosh, you won't believe it, but I really could use you." She came in, next thing you know, I got another call. So I had this all planned out. I was pulling people from all different areas, and I got to call them and say, "You know what, we got this figured out." It was like just a few days before that started. So it's amazing what you all can do, even from other states, and just getting here for us. And we have somebody that just arrived today, flew in from Oklahoma for this event today. So it's wonderful what you guys come and you do for our association. So thank you all. And then I want to go into just a little bit about Split Up. There it comes. So we have, as I said, a wonderful volunteer base that spans from all over the U.S. We do get keepers that come in from other countries occasionally. We have approximately 400 volunteers a season. Now, if you think about that, that's a lot of people to schedule and manipulate, but we've got systems in place and it all works out and we fill all those schedules. Now those 400 individuals can be day keepers. Day keepers are our local people who live here in this community in Ludington or in the Silver Lake area or even down in the Whitehall area. They come in and help us at the Ludington Breakwater, Little Sable Point, and White River Light Station. So those people have their own places to stay and they just fill in days. At White River, we have Matt who lives there, so he's the curator. So the day keepers come in and they give him a day off, so he gets to have a break and maybe go home and visit family. At Little Sable and the Breakwater, they are working currently just on Mondays, so this is new this year. In the past, we tried to have our locals work Mondays, which is a transition day. So that's when, could you hit that button right behind you? They're on a timer. Thank you. So Monday's a transition day. So those resident keepers that have been in the house for a week, they're moving out by noon on Monday. And then after 1, we have a new group that moves in. So while you all are transitioning, we have day keepers that are working the lighthouse to keep it open so we can meet that mission, keeping it open 7 days a week. We did try doing Thursdays, and that worked for several years. We've only done it at the Breakwater a couple of years, and it worked really good. Last year we had a struggle. So we've lost some very key volunteers that used to pick up those days. And then some people are just getting overcommitted, or maybe they can't put in long days, so they're only working half days. So those things tend, if they're only able to work a half a day now, or maybe they can't climb the tower, or they don't want to run an iPad or something, that makes it a little bit tougher in the scheduling. So this year I had to reduce it back to just Mondays. So the resident keepers at the Breakwater and Little Sable will be working Tuesday through Sunday. We also have then, I talked about our resident keepers, we have special event volunteers. So Peter touched on our events a little bit. We have bus days, Night at the Lights programs, and Friday Night Live downtown Ludington. So these are all just events that we use to bring people out to the lighthouse or spread our name and our awareness downtown Ludington at Friday Night Live. We also have behind-the-scenes volunteers, people that might come in and help with archives, proofread and edit things, come in and tag merchandise, pull weeds from the flower beds, Boy Scout groups that might come help paint or clean things up. There's different groups that will come in and help out with different things as well. And then we have about 90% return year after year on our volunteers. So on the scheduling, I kind of have a color coding system that I use when I'm doing the schedule, so I can keep track of who's new, who's canceled, you know, how many cancellations we've had each year, and we've had to fill in. I code, I have all different colors on there, tell me different pieces of information about that schedule. So, but when I look at that and I see, you know, there's more yellow is for all the returning volunteers, then green, who is new volunteers, that tells me we have a pretty good program going, because Big Sable especially, there's not much green on that schedule. So those of you that have got into Big Sable this year, you got your applications in at a good time. And then we do have volunteers that have been coming and working with us for more than 20 years. So that also says something good about the program and our lives. So thank you all for being here. And then those of you that are new, I bet you're coming in here and you have a bunch of different expectations that you're thinking about. You're thinking about your expectations, you're thinking about our expectations, and you're wondering, you have a little bit of anxiety about what you're getting yourself into. And some people come into this thinking, oh, this is a bucket list thing, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try it, and you think it's going to be a one-time thing. Good luck with that. So we're going to touch a little bit just on our expectations. So, of course, to run any kind of a business, you have to have policies, procedures, guidelines, integrity, professionalism, communication, a sense of pride, ownership, and then you're going to know a little bit about the history of our lighthouses, and you're going to gain a love for our lights, or many of you probably already have a love for our lights. And then you're going to ask questions, and you're going to have a lot of fun. And we're going to just break these down a little bit so you kind of have an idea of the policies and procedures. We have policies and procedures because that's how we perform our services while building on our mission. And again, does anybody remember that mission?
Preserve, educate, make accessible.
Yes, very good, very good. So the SPLCA policies are created to give volunteers the procedures and guidelines necessary to perform confidently. So each year I work on different things that I hear throughout the year from the volunteers. So I listen to you guys, you all get a survey to fill out at the end of your tour. We save those in the off months. That's what I review to make changes or try to make it easier. My philosophy is, if I can make things easy on you, my job's going to be a lot easier. So I am continuously trying to make improvements. And it's something I want you guys to feel open to share what you think might work a little bit better. What I want you to realize is that when I look at these things, what works for you might not work for you. So I have to look at what's going to work best for the greater good of the association with all the volunteers as a whole. Next we have the professionalism. So our association is 100% customer service based, and we couldn't be successful in implementing our mission without so many wonderful volunteers. So some of you might think, what makes me professional as being a lighthouse keeper? Really, all you have to do is be able to represent yourself in the association well. You're going to be passionate about the lighthouses, and when you're passionate about something, it's easy to talk about something. So here's just a few of those components of being professional. You're going to be honest and humble, collaborator, manager, educator, advocate, all those things. But you're not even going to have to think about it, because you're going to come in and you're going to be so excited to be there, and you're going to have people that you're going to get consumed in talking to them about the things that you're passionate about. So don't overwhelm yourself feeling like you have to know every piece of history of the lighthouse as you come in. All I ask is, you know, we send out the history packets. You all should have got a history packet on the lighthouse that you're working at. Find a couple things that you find really interesting. Learn about those things. And those are the things that you can talk about. And when you come, you're going to learn a lot more, and you're going to have a lot more to talk to people about, because you're going to listen to other fellow volunteers and what's interesting to them and what they're teaching. You're going to find out things from visitors that are lighthouse enthusiasts that are gonna come in and they're gonna tell you things that you're gonna say, really? I had no idea. And so this is my 5th season and I still learn when I visit the lighthouses. I'm always learning something new about the lighthouse. And that's because somebody's found a piece interesting that I hadn't thought about and they're sharing it with me. So you'll be educated as well. So don't be nervous about that part coming in and having to know everything. And then by volunteering, you're going to gain a sense of pride and ownership. So you're going to invest your time and talents and gain ownership in the actions. You're going to solve problems because I'm going to prepare you the best I can possibly prepare you for things that might happen at the lighthouses, but we can never predict what's going to happen at the lighthouses. When we're seeing tens of thousands of people at the lighthouse, we never know what we might encounter. We don't know if we're going to see, a boat tip over in the water, or you don't know what's going to happen out there. You're going to improve lives because you're going to educate people on the importance of the lighthouses and what they stand for. Most people find lighthouses to be attractive or mysterious or beautiful, but they don't stop to think about what those lighthouses represent and how many lives they probably saved out on our Great Lakes. And then you're going to connect to others and you're going to transform your own lives. You're going to build friendships with people that you're working with. You might make friendships with people that you meet as visitors that you keep in touch with. You might decide to go visit somebody that you've met at the lighthouse. And I think one of our board members said that. They've made great friendships being here. And I hear that all the time from the volunteers when I talk with you guys, when I visit. And I get emails in the winter months that tell me, hey Rachel, just thought you'd like to see this picture. We went and visited so-and-so out in Colorado, So those are very nice and it's nice to see that. And many, many times when people ask me what I do and I tell them I work for the Lighthouse Association, I do the scheduling and things, and then they're like, what do you mean? And I think of it as camp for grown-ups. It really is, right? You're coming together, you're living together, you're making friends, and then you're serving a purpose and a mission, and you're learning something while you're there. So you never knew you were going to camp again, right? All right. And then lastly, you're going to get a sense of our lights, sense of the history and a love for the lights. So here's some beautiful photos. These shots were taken by Todd and Brad Reed, local photographers here in the area. You'll see a lot of their pictures hanging throughout the residences you stay in the lighthouses. And you also might get a visit from them because you see them a lot at our lighthouses. And so, just want you all to trust in the fact that you're here to serve a good purpose. And now we're going to talk about your expectations. So you're thinking, what did I get myself involved in? That sounds like a lot of hard work. I'm going to have to talk to people. We're going to be selling things. Who told me that we were selling things? We're going to be learning a lot, meeting new people and making friends, fishing, sunset, shopping, and having fun. Yes, yes, yes. You're going to be doing all of those things and more. And then you're thinking, well, what else could there be? Well, the plus is all of the things that you aren't expecting, but that make your time with us unique. So, boat wrecks, storms, power outages, rescues, recoveries, events at the lighthouses, wedding proposals, media coverage, lighthouse preservation, endless photo opportunities. And as we always say, we pay in sunsets. So the reality is the expectations will meet, and you will enjoy your time with us. You will work hard, but you're going to play hard while you're here as well. And then you've met the staff. You were, Peter did the staff introductions earlier. But here's what I want you to know. When you're at the Lighthouses, this is a pretty independent type volunteer job. So when you arrive, I'm going to come out and give you an orientation. I'm going to tell you things specific about your lighthouse that you're working at and your tour that you're on. So if you have school groups coming, if I know you're going to have a wedding proposal, if anything I know specific to your tour, you're going to get within the first couple days that you arrive. Usually Tuesday mornings, right before you start work. We start bright and early. It's crash course training. So what I've learned from that is I come and I give you a lot of information in a really short amount of time, and it's really hard to remember all that information. So I've evolved it into, I've created binders in each of your bedrooms. The majority of the information that I go over is in your bedroom. So when you arrive, there's a binder in there. It's going to have 90% of the information that I'm going to tell you on Tuesday morning. So that way you can read over it ahead of time, come up with your questions that we can talk about at orientation. And then when I come, the small piece that you don't have in your binder is just what is specific to your tour. Everything else will be in that binder. Once we do the orientation, we'll do training in your gift shop. So everybody's comfortable with the iPad and selling of merchandise, and you can answer questions. I usually hang out for a good couple hours after orientation, unless everybody's kind of on their own and you've been here before and you're doing your thing and you don't need me, then I wait around a little while and make sure everybody's good before I leave. The summer interns and the summer help, I can't obviously be at all the locations on Tuesday morning doing training. So I spend this next month training them to train you. So they will do the same thing. They will come, I will prepare all the information that they're giving you. They'll come and give you that information, and they're going to come to the Lighthouse with you, make sure you're good and comfortable before they leave. So then we have Peter, our executive director. He will be coming to visit you at least once a week. And Jim Hardy, our maintenance supervisor, he'll be stopping by, or you'll hear from him on, any maintenance type things. And then myself, I'm at the Lighthouses a couple times a week and always available by phone. So you're never truly alone, although when you come into this, like I said, it is a very independent job, but we have been building the tools to try to make it easier for you. And then Peter had already given it to you, but I'm going to move into the Keeper Handbook, and one of the first things is the mission. So everybody has the mission down, correct?
To preserve, promote, and educate, and make our lighthouses accessible to all.
Yes, good. So you're all going to be great at the mission when you arrive. So what a great mission, right? We were talking about 2 miles out to Big Sawhill. So when you think about our mission to make it accessible, it's really hard for it to be accessible to people. But with the help of the state park, they permitted us to have bus days at Big Sawhill. So we have buses that come in and they will transport people out to the lighthouse. They do pay a fee because we have to rent the buses, so we do charge a fee, but they get a ticket and they can buy a one-way or a round-trip ticket and get out to the lighthouse. So that was one thing that helps us make our lighthouses accessible. The others are pretty accessible with the exception of the breakwater. Now, the breakwater is a whole different ballgame because sometimes it's not accessible to any of us. Water levels have been increasing. The water levels are high. I've noticed, again, this is going to be my 5th season, but over the years I've been here, the water levels coming up, we're closing that break wall more and more. Because instead of just crashing, it's rolling over, and then it's not safe for anyone to be out there. So I've seen the increase since I've been here where we've had to close. And we're going to get to that in just a minute because you're probably having questions about closing the break wall. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But we're going to move into the keeper's image and conduct. Again, you guys serve as our voices and eyes at the lighthouse. So we do ask you to have accurate knowledge of the history of our lighthouses, which comes in that packet that I've provided for you. We ask you to wear casual, comfortable clothing when you're out there. No flip-flops, tank tops, bathing suits, things of that nature. Make sure they're neat and professional. You don't have to dress up when you're there. Make sure you're comfortable. Wear layers, especially if you're working at the Breakwater Lighthouse. Please make sure you have layers to take out there because the water may be rolling up. We only close when the water is crashing up over and can take you off the break wall, but you often splash going out. It's concrete and structure, so moisture, dampness, cold. So just make sure when you go out in the morning, you have something warmer, and then you can take it off throughout the day as it heats up. And it also depends on what position you're working in that lighthouse, because the lantern room up top is like a sauna, so it gets very hot up there. Where downstairs in the gift shop, you might be a little bit cooler down there. So just a couple things to know. Big sawmill, you're right there, so it's pretty easy for you guys to make yourselves comfortable. Little sawmill, same type of thing. You want to probably have layers out there. Not to mention, you would be amazed at the difference of where you stay on inland versus being on the lake in temperature. And so my house is about 20 miles east, and it can be 10 degrees cooler here when I come into town. I tell my kids at home, grab sweatshirts, we're going to the beach, and they're like, yeah. And we get to the beach, and they're like, burn, you know. So, and then conduct. No smoking permitted inside any Splica building. No candles. I try to opt to not sell candles in the gift shops just because I don't want somebody to burn popcorn and decide to light a candle in there. And we definitely want to preserve those structures. No alcoholic beverages allowed in the visitor area or while on duty. No pets belonging to keepers or guests are permitted in the lighthouses. And we also have no overnight guests allowed. I'd like to add that in there. Maintenance and appearance of the lighthouses. Again, these are historical structures. So the maintenance and preservation of the lighthouse is very important. And one of the things you'll hear over and over is, please don't do anything at the lighthouse without first getting approval from Jim. And whether it's as simple as things or not, please just make that phone call, let him know what's going on, and tell him you can fix it. He really appreciates help from all of the volunteers. We all do. But we just have to make sure that it fits in with the historic preservation of the lighthouse. So he'll tell you, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Go ahead and do that. Or he's going to tell you, why don't you hold off until I get there. One thing I'd like to add in there, this includes putting up signs, pictures, and literature that you think is important at the lighthouses. If you want a sign made or you want something put up in there, please talk to the staff first, and we'll let you know if we want to put that sign up in there or hang anything on the walls. There is a complete list of keepers' daily duties posted at the refrigerators at the lighthouses. So these can be things from sweeping, blowing, shoveling sand on the sidewalks, making the lighthouses look beautiful and picture perfect for all of our visitors coming out there. Watering the flowers, picking up and disposing of trash at Big Sawmill. And I'm going to back up to flowers real quick. We all love the beauty of flowers, but just know that you can't just purchase flowers and put them at the lighthouses. We have to get permissions for what flowers can be at the lighthouses, just because of invasive species. Also picking up and disposing of trash. So a lot of our keepers like to take those beach walks, and they'll take bags with them and collect a bag of garbage while they're out and about. Things come washing up on this beach that you wouldn't believe. I visited Big Sabo a couple of years ago, and somebody's like, "We found a car cover." So a car cover must have come over from Wisconsin or something. They have this big car cover. They're like, "What do you want me to do with it?" I'm like, "I don't know. Throw it away." Let's see. You can. You'll be cleaning and restocking the outdoor bathrooms. So this pertains to Big Sabo. We have the outhouses right at the end of the walkway here. That is for public use. And so in the mornings, we just ask that you go out there and make sure they're cleaned up, and then make sure they have toilet paper and hand sanitizer. We do have a company that comes in and they provide those things, and they clean them once a week, but they can't be driving on the road every day to clean them for us, so that is one of the jobs that we do ask of the keepers. And for veteran keepers, it's always brought up, so just in case somebody's thinking of this at the end, I don't know that you need to stir the toilets. I'm just throwing that out there. I think that started as a joke many years ago. I have some very adamant keepers that think we have to stir the toilets, and I don't require that you stir the toilets. And I did see a head nod when I say that, so I almost feel like that question was coming.
Rachel, and flush is better if you stir it.
She almost took that.
No, I just thought, oh gosh, here we go with the toilets. Campers and tents are not allowed. So if any of you are traveling in and you're thinking of bringing an RV or something like that, we do not have parking for those. We are not permitted with the state park to allow parking of those. Here, there are no tents allowed, so if you have guests coming in, they can't pop the tent. There are, places, I have had keepers that have come in, and there are places that you can rent a spot and leave it for the week or two. Lighthouse restoration, we already talked about that, so Jim is the guy to call if you notice anything or you have an idea or suggestion or something needs to be fixed out there. And then we're going to get to the inclement weather. Some of that. While it is our mission to keep the light shining and open to visitors, there will be times when it is not safe to do so. As our eyes and ears, you will be the person to decide if the weather looks ominous or enough to evacuate the tower and close down for the day. Please do not feel pressure to keep the tower open just to be friendly to the public. Their safety and yours as well is our utmost concern. So really the only tower we have that closes much is the breakwater, as I mentioned, and that is the danger of the pier and the water washing over. So what we have to decipher and make sure you understand is a little water coming over and splashing at the legs isn't what we're talking about. We're talking about the rolling waves that are coming over and they're going to take you off the tower. It's time to close. It's not safe. So when you're going to close any of our towers, what I need you to do is contact myself and leave a voicemail. If you get my voicemail, let me know. You can contact the office, let the office know. It's important we know right away because we post this on our Facebook page and things. So if people are traveling in or something, we're trying to get people and let them know that we're closed. We're not going to catch everybody, but it is a helpful tool for some people making a trip in. We also want you to stick around if there's a storm or something, if it calms down. Sometimes it can be raging in the morning and then it'll calm down and we can reopen the lighthouse. We're advertised to be open from 10 to 5, so what happens is if somebody travels in and they show up and the water is clear, they'll hike out there and they wonder like, why are they open? And then Peter gets a nice email that says they traveled in and we weren't open and we're false advertising and things like that. So we do try to be open between the hours of 10 to 5 within safety measures. That is posted, our sign at the beginning of the break wall. We do have where it says closed, but again, people don't read signs. They're looking at the lighthouse, they're not looking at the sign on the side. So, and we talk about this more in depth with the lighthouse that you're working at. And then little sawmill, the big sawmill, sometimes we don't close the tower completely, but we can't let people go outside. And that's high winds, heavy rains. Heavy rains, what can happen is they're bringing water in on those stairs, and then the stairs are getting wet and slippery. So that can become an issue. But outside of that, they don't close too much. You just tell people when they come out, you can climb the tower, but you're not going to be able to go outside, and they're happy with that.
intermittent lightning out in the area but close by or something, does that cause a shutdown or?
Usually when we see lightning out over the water, you gotta kind of keep an eye on it, but yeah, we usually tell you to just not let people outside, in the gallery, but they can still climb the tower. We've had people climb in power outages at Big Sawmill. There's enough lights with all the portholes during the day out there. The challenge is the gift shop then, but we just take tower climbs, and because people hike 2 miles, they're pretty disappointed if they can't climb the tower. So we try to keep it within safety measure. There's times that we even have the door open. They can snap a picture inside, out the door. They just can't step outside. So, and again, you guys are the ones that are there. So, and if you call, we'll tell you what we think, our opinion, but really, we're not there. So it's hard for us to make that call. So next we're going to move into crowd management and safety. So while it is not the requirement of volunteers to be certified in first aid or CPR, we do encourage it if at all possible. You can contact your Red Cross or American Heart Association to inquire about training. Today we will have a brief training. It's not a qualification, it's just an overview of general first aid practice. So we'll have Pat up here soon to go over that. So if a situation arises and requires immediate attention, a person becomes belligerent or threatening to anybody on the premises, contact 911. We don't have that too often. And while it is the volunteer's job to be a good host and amiable to our guests, one also must be prepared to enforce the rules and safety to the visitors, especially at the tops of the towers. If a visitor breaks the rules, leans over the railing, the gallery, picks up their child, engages in horseplay, or spits, throws it outside the gallery, your first action should be to remind the visitor of the rules. Then if they do not follow your directives, ask them to return to the ground. This one is very important, and this is a very hard job at the top of the towers, Big Sawmill and Little Sawmill, because they're outside, and when you're inside, people want to talk to you about the lens. They want to know more about that lens. And when you're in there talking to them, you might have people out on the gallery walking around the gallery. Well, you don't know what's going on out there. So what I do ask of you is, while you want to engage and inform those people of the light inside the tower and how they used to operate, the mechanisms, they may have lots of questions. Make sure you're keeping focus on the time that people might be outside, and maybe, just come out and say, I'm just going to take a quick walk around the tower, and go out there, because you wouldn't believe some of the things that happen, and it's not kids. So we've had a volunteer that is actually to leave the top of the tower because the parents were encouraging the kids to spit and try to hit that person. And we had a situation where 2 grown men were outside, and one got on the other one's shoulders to climb up to the upper level outside the tower. That was caught on camera by a neighbor, and Peter happened to be working at the Lighthouse that day. So they came right over to let Peter know what was going on, and they sent us the picture. It was pretty crazy what they were doing out there. 2 grown men and one on his shoulders. I couldn't believe it. So those are just things to keep in mind when you're there. It is fun, it is casual, but we gotta be reminded that people aren't always thinking. One of the other things that I'll bring up right here is flip-flops. And this is something that we always talk about, but as we're at the bottom of the towers, we should remind people to take off their flip-flops. And that's just because they're sloppy, they're not strapped to the foot, and we have several people that will trip going up the tower. So rather than saying to them in a question, do you want to take your flip-flops off over there? They have no idea what they're getting themselves into if they've never been to the tower. So they're climbing 130 stairs in a spiral staircase where they might start feeling nervous or scared, especially coming down, seeing through those stairs. And then they've got these loose shoes on their feet that's making them unstable. And rather than having anyone fall, just direct them to take their shoes off. So just, if you notice they have flip-flops on, just say, would you please take your flip-flops off and leave them right over there there for your safety, we suggest that you climb barefoot. And in their mind, it's just, and somebody said to me, and I'm in an unfamiliar place, well, would you want to take your shoes off and leave them over there? I'm like, no, I'm okay. But if somebody tells me it's for my safety, then I'm like, oh, okay. And then I get in there and I can see why. So it's just sometimes the way we word things with the visitors, and some people are worried about that because of the challenge from people. If you say it to them in that manner rather than asking them, you don't usually get a challenge.
Rachel, could that be kind of reminding people when they buy their tickets? Because I know, especially at Little Sabo, a lot of people are there to swim. They don't even have shoes with them when they buy tickets. You know, now they're faced with bare feet or nothing. So if it was maybe posted at the ticket sales or reminded, you know, it could save us a lot of hassle with the.
I think it's a little bit harder there because you're not always seeing their feet in the trailer, you know, whereas the person at the bottom is seeing the
But
feet.
you could just make it part of the ticket sales, you know, or something.
And they are okay to
Sign.
climb barefoot. We'd rather climb barefoot than with flip-flops. But, and if they have sandals with a strap on holding them on, that's okay, because they're not as clumsy then. But especially little kids and their little feet and the flip-flops are all over the place. They can't hardly keep them on walking on smooth ground with a little tiny climb stairs. All right, so now we're gonna move on to keeping these lights shining. So here are a few pictures. The one up here is Tom Brad Reed, and the rest of these was a photographer out of Rhode Island.
Yep.
He comes from Rhode Island, and he has a book called Stars and Lights, and so he had asked to come in and take some shots at night of our lighthouses. So I thought they were a good fit shining out there. Just a reminder, we have 4 lights, but 1 mission. I'm just going to start real quick. I had one thing come up on break that somebody mentioned to me that I should probably cover, and we were talking about safety at the lighthouses, and children is one of those concerns. So we do have a height restriction on climbing. It's 1 meter. That's approximately 40 inches to climb the tower. So when you're working at the lighthouse, I know we want to please everybody and make everybody happy. And the kids are so cute and so excited to climb the tower. But we do ask that you do try to follow that policy because we want kids climbing on their own, 2 feet. We don't want parents carrying them on a spiral staircase. And the problem isn't always going up to the top of the tower. It's coming down that they all of a sudden are panicked. And then what happens? Dad grabs the kid and carries them down the tower, and that's a real safety concern. Not to mention sometimes they freeze up and they scream and they cry and they kick because they're scared to death when they look down through those stairs going down. So we do ask that you follow that. There is a stick posted at your lighthouses or a mark or something within eyeshot of selling tickets that you can see and get them up there. The other important piece to that is, so they visit your lighthouse and you give in and you allow them to climb the tower, and then they go to another lighthouse and they're told no, then guess what happens to that volunteer? Well, they let me at Big Sabo, so aren't you the same people? You know? So it's just something, you know, keep your other fellow volunteers in mind with that as well. And I will tell you, working at the lighthouse, I've worked there, it's hard, it's not easy. You get dad coming up with his baby in the backpack and he thinks he's gonna trot up the tower with the baby. What they don't realize is there's hatches that you have to duck and go through. Bags is another concern, big purses, bags. We do allow people to take their camera up, but what happens with a camera is photographers have these beautiful big lenses and they want to go get this beautiful shot. We do cave and let them take up their camera bag because most of them are going to refuse to leave it down there because those things are very expensive. I do ask that they strap it on the best they can over the shoulder or something, tuck it to the side so, you know, it's close, tight to the body. But we want to refrain from them loose big bags because when they're going up, if they catch in one of those hatches or something, it's just a safety concern. So again, rather than saying, would you mind leaving your pet? I need you. I need you to leave your backpacks and things right here. You can leave them right behind me. I'm not going anywhere. Somebody will keep an eye on them and you can come and get it when you come back down. So you don't want them taking drinks up there. So if they purchase a drink, same thing. Tell them, go ahead and have a rest, get a drink, but we need you to leave the drink at the bottom of the tower. So that was just one thing that had come up, and thanks for that reminder. So we can talk about that a little bit. And now questions?
What if they're physically, not really very good on their feet? Should we just kind of warn them that there's, 140 steps?
130 steps at the spiral staircase. Are you talking kids not good on their feet?
No, adults.
Anyone not good on their feet? Yes, you need to let them know how many stairs there are in the spiral staircase. And I don't encourage saying, oh, if you're scared of heights and all these things, we do have signs posted. But the minute you start saying that, people are like, oh. But a lot of people that are scared of heights can make it up there. They just, maybe when you say get up there, they don't want to walk outside, but they can still have that experience, I mean, we're not trying to discourage people that might have a slight fear, but we just want them to know the safety concerns. So always tell people that there's hatches they have to duck through going up. Remind them of that. We have little dangly things as you get to the top of the tower that rub your hair. I always tell them, when you start feeling like spiders are going through your hair, look up, because there are hatches you gotta duck through, and a lot of people will hit their head on those hatches.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the breakwater. Are there any situations where suddenly the wind comes up, water starts crashing over there, you've got folks out at the lighthouse? How do you handle that?
Yep.
It could be difficult for them to get back.
So usually the keeper at the top of the light can see that and watch that. Also, those down below often will step outside and check things out occasionally. You just want to look out there, get fresh air, whatever. One time in the previous 4 years, Peter and I walked out to get some volunteers and walked back with them because the water crept up. They thought they could handle it, and it just kept getting worse and worse, and they were scared to walk back on their own. So we went out and walked back with them. Typically, I have had a situation where keepers have called and said, hey, Rachel, it's about 11:30. We got out here fine. It wasn't bad, but the winds are picking up. Water's coming over. We're going to close up. So that, you got to make that call. So you just tell the...
Yeah, it doesn't seem like, I live here in town now, and the city doesn't monitor it, that they don't really prevent people from going out, do they?
They do. They will occasionally shut the entire pier down. They're going to come out and tell you, we're closing the pier, you got to go. Again, you just call me, Rachel, they're closing the pier, so we're closing up. Do they act on it as often as they should? No. I think it's just hard for them to know. It's a hard call, but you bet your butt that when somebody goes off that pier, they're going to be monitoring it, and then it starts closing more often. But it does get closed by the city, and then we can't open until the barricade's gone. Well, I take that back. We have opened because we've got out there the next day. We're getting out there at 9:30. The barricade's still there, but everything's clear and perfect. So the keepers will go out at that point and start opening up, and then usually notify me, and I notify the city that the barricade's still there, and then they can come and remove it.
One of the things we do at Little Sawmill, if we close, we also call Mac Woods.
Yes. And I give all those details at the training of who I want you to call if you close, but most importantly, you need to contact us, and then we'll let you know who else, because the Big Sawmill has a chain of command of who to call, and so does the Breakwater and Little Sawmill.
I was just going to say, a lot of the safety questions that you're talking about, even though you're talking about the spiral staircase, people freak out in the breakwater too.
Yes.
Because the ladders are just as dangerous, and the
Yep.
same thing with the flip-flops and the kids. They get up there and they look down those big holes and they say, I'm not going down that thing.
Absolutely.
And we always tell them to go backwards and everything like that, so there's just all kinds of the same safety issues that go on at the big lighthouses also are concerns at the breakwater.
Absolutely, they are. And at the breakwater, if you've not ever been there, it starts out, at the bottom, and it gets smaller as you go up. So that's another thing is crowd control at the breakwater, because you can't fit very many people at the top of that tower. So I always tell the keepers on the bottom, you gotta kind of monitor that, because the person at the top is just receiving everybody, so you gotta kind of monitor that. And if you have, I always say if it's slower and you have an extra body, put somebody on the second level where the lens cases or something, talk to them about lenses, or, stop them there and talk to them. And then you can kind of eliminate some of that overcrowding at the top because they're not moving as quickly. Also, radioing up and letting the person at the top know, hey, we're pretty busy down here with people coming up, so maybe you don't talk as long up there. But a scary situation that had happened was at the breakwater, Dad and his little boy were up top. And Dad and the keeper are talking, and the little boy's looking out the window, and they're checking everything out, and all of a sudden he took a step, and boom, he went down the hole. And fortunately for that little boy, he didn't get hurt, but Peter happened to be there for that one. He was on the level below talking to somebody else, another visitor, and he initially thought, because they were looking at the wall or talking about something, and so he turned around and he thought the boy tripped going up or something, and then realized the boy just fell from the top. And the dad comes down, immediately they called 911, but the dad comes down and he's looking at him and he's like, I'm a doctor, you can call 911 off. And so they wrote up an incident report. I always tell everyone to write an incident report. If you provide any kind of service, whether it's calling 911, providing a bottle of water, anything like that, just write it down so we know what's going on. Somebody, hits their head pretty good, we might have a little concern, get a little information from them, just write down what had happened. We never know what's going to come about in a situation. So they wrote up an incident report on it, and about 3 days later, I followed up, and I just like to call, make sure they're doing okay. And the mom answered and said, it's amazing. He's a little sore, but he doesn't have any bruises, and he tells us his guardian angel carried him down. So, and he was only about 7 years old, so I thought, wow. So, yeah, things happen, and we don't always know. I mean, how unpredictable that, but we get involved in those conversations, so just beware of some of the things going on around you, and always watch that up at the top. Don't get overcrowded up there because there is a hole. He went straight. Fortunately for him, he didn't hit any stairs on the way.
As far as the breakwater goes, does anyone ever fall off the platform, like into the water?
Yes. Usually it's due to waves, or they decide they're going to try walking the rocks, and the rocks have algae growing, which is like ice. And the other thing is, people come here as tourists, and they don't know the dangers of our water. So when the water's rolling over the pier, it's kind of a challenge, like, oh, this is so cool, we're going to get out there. While I'm not talking about the breakwater, for those of you working there this summer, at the end of the pier it does say no jumping or diving. And that is a big issue because people do it all the time. Is it your job to police that? No. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If it were me out there working, I'm going to go out there and tell them that is not allowed. Because if somebody gets in danger, who are they coming to? The keepers in the lighthouse, and I don't want to have to worry about that. So I always recommend going out there and telling them there's no jumping, no diving. I mean, we're talking people on bicycles out there, and they'll have them tethered to their wrist, so they'll drive off the end of the pier and tether the bike bag. The same with skateboards and things. So there really can be a big concern. And what happens when water hits the break wall? The flow of the water transition. So there's always a big liability with people jumping off the end of the pier, but it happens all summer long. It is okay to go tell them, and you have the number to Beach Patrol posted out there. So if they continue doing it, call Beach Patrol and let Beach Patrol take care of it. We did have a keeper a few years ago that was out there, and he did go out and tell them to stop jumping. And the kids got a little cocky with him, and I think they kind of gave him the bird, and he was up at the top of the tower, they wanted to come jump off the top of the tower. I came up there, wanted me down so I could jump.
I don't think so.
You know, and he was telling him, no, you're not even supposed to be jumping, you know, and so they got a little cocky with him, so he just called Beach Patrol, and they got a $250 fine, each one of them, so.
So that is another thing for people to know, out at the breakwater, there is an actual city, or I think it's city beach patrol. There's 2 or 3 guys that actually patrol that whole park.
Yeah.
And so if you have a problem, they ride out, they'll walk out, or sometimes they'll ride their bikes, not very often, but mostly walk out just to check on you. And so if you see these guys in white shirts and black pants, they're the beach patrol, and they're city employees.
Yeah.
And they do a nice job, very cooperative.
Yeah, they are very nice, and like I said, I keep the number posted out there so that you do have that contact, you know, in event of situations like that. But again, like I said, it's not up to you to police, but you don't want to be in the situation of a rescue either.
Just out of sheer curiosity, are there landlines out there? Because I'm not even getting cell phone service right here.
No, there are no landline. There's no electricity. Well, we do have some solar electricity out there now. But cell phones typically work at the breakwater. Not always in the base of the tower. Depends on your carrier. But most of the time, if people step outside, you can. Little Sabo, there's not cell phone service. Rarely. That's why we have that Coast Guard radio out there for emergency. So we have other things in place, but no, we don't have landline phones. We rely on cell phones and walkie-talkies and things, but.
Big Sabo is iffy too.
Yeah, and.
Sometimes you get Wisconsin.
Yes. So, Big Sabo, I noticed, I've changed not my carrier, but my phone. I've always carried a Motorola phone. I've always had the best service with Motorola. My husband used to work over the road, so we always kept Verizon had a great service network, and we always carried Motorola. And my daughter talked me into this iPhone, and I get worse service. Now I don't get service at Big Sabo anymore. You know, it's a little bit frustrating, but now I'm locked into this phone, and I'm like, you know, why did I let her help me? Just because it was a brand new release on a phone, and it was a buy one get one free. But yeah, no, cell phone service is very sketchy, but.
And that's true here in the park too. If you're at the Raceway, if you're at the house here, you won't get any service.
I know I get no service with any brand phone up here in the front part.
So medical emergencies were in the top of the towers that you would use Coast Guard radio?
At Little Sabo.
And Big Sabo?
Big Sabo, you have a landline.
Oh.
And the breakwater has an inline here at the house.
Yeah, but not at the Lighthouse. Yeah. The resident homes all have one. And since Big Sabo's house is attached, there is a landline there, but the towers do not. All right. Good.
Question.
Yeah.
Incident that came up at the breakwater last year, or early June, how do you brief the schools? Do you brief them on especially clothing, or, because last year we had a situation where they brought, it was like the first week in June, and they brought a young, there were about 75 people, kids came up, and a couple of them had shorts, a couple of them had t-shirts, and that's all they had, and it was super windy. We had one boy who was uncontrolled shivering, just started turning blue. The people that were with him weren't doing anything. Myself and another keeper ended up buying a coat and a hat. Because, I mean, we split, it was only $20, but it was a difference. But there were several kids that were in shorts.
Yep. And it happens all the time at the lighthouses, but, you know, the teachers send home the notes, they'll tell people to dress according to weather and things like that, but, you know, it's up to the parents.
Well, that's something you gotta keep an eye on, because the escorts, they were, I told you to wear a coat.
Okay, well, that's how the schools are. We had a situation.
Shivering, and he was, I don't think he would have made it out again without some kind of
last year we had a school that visited White Pine Village and then was coming to Big Sable. It was a super windy day. We lost power. A lot of places in Ludington, White Pine Village had no power. The kids had to stop at Walmart or somewhere to use the bathroom on their way in because they were contacted and told there was no power, but they insisted to come. This is their field trip. And then the keepers contacted me and said, Rachel, if them kids are hiking out here, as soon as they break the dunes out to Big Sable, they're going to be sandblasted. You know, like the sand is blowing so hard. So I did contact the lady, and I told her that, you know, that the keepers had called, beware, make sure they have coats. We told them if they don't have them, too bad. That was the teacher. And I'm like, okay, I just wanted to let you know in case you'd rather do like a park exploration or something like that to keep them off the beach area, but they didn't care, they went. And the same thing, keepers were very concerned about that, but I can't control that. So I'm going to welcome Pat Brown up here.
Thank you. You know, I heard you all chuckle when you talked about the kids wanting to dive off the top of the tower. Now, I know some of you in here, as you were growing up, did some things that your parents didn't think were very good either. So, you know, you're going, oh, they want to jump off the top. You're going, wait a minute. We used to jump off in the barn. We jumped from here to here and do things too. So I know that was probably some of that stuff. So I really thank you for allowing my wife and I, this is my wife Kathy over here, to come up and visit you again. I don't recall how many years it has been, but I've been here on crutches after having knee surgeries or knee replacements. I've had hip replacements and I've had several back surgeries. So I've either been here on crutches or standing here, couldn't move, and I really appreciate this time coming up to be with you. It's a short period of time, but there's a lot of stuff. Rachel, did you tell them they got a raise this year too, did you?
I'm sorry, I didn't mention that.
You did? With all the responsibilities you got, it's oh my goodness, what do we do, you know? Again, my name is Pat Brown. I'm from Holt, Michigan, if you know where Holt, Michigan is, down by Lansing. Lived there all my life, actually Kathy has too. And we're kind of hobby apple farmers. And I've already been asked how the apple crop this year, actually last year we had some bees brought in. And I think they pollinated blossoms and leaves because there were so many apples, it was unbelievable. They were just hanging everywhere. So we, you know, I give the apples away down there because people, you know, they want the perfect apples that they go to the store and kids get, you know, and we spray them, I do everything, they look really good, but we want to have kids come in there and I let kids pick them and you know, just so they get the opportunity. We make cider, we do 500 gallons of cider, and I got into the caramel apple gig last year. And I would make 25 or 30 a night, and I would come down in the morning, and there's only about 2 left. My wife goes to work before I do. So she was the caramel lady, you know, caramel apple lady at the school, you know, so every day there I get a, hey, can you make some more of those? She goes to bed and I'm making caramel apples, she takes them and gets all the credit, so. But it's fun, we have a good time down there. Some of my background and why I do this, I was a fireman and a paramedic for 40 years. And I've been doing CPR and first aid forever. I still enjoy it. I retired in 2012 and had to get a different job. Oh, wait a minute, she calls it a real job. Because she's on the police side of it from way back. And you know, police and firemen getting along together, it's, you know, I have the lazy boys and they sleep at night. So always that kind of stuff. So, but I still enjoy doing what I do. I enjoy coming up here and being able to at least give some information of things that you might run across, because there's a whole host of them. You know, we could be here all day and I could talk all day. But just some certain things that might come up that you're going, man, I never thought about it. Somebody made a mention of a little the other day. They said, you know what? Your body's not going to go where your brain has never been. If you think of it that way, you know, I'm at Big Sable and this person fell down the, you know, the kid fell down through the hole. What do I do? You know, how many of you are nurses in here? Anybody old nurses? Oh my God, here we go, we're in trouble. All right. Any EMTs, paramedics, doctors? You know, I heard the story about the doctor and call out 911. Do not do that. by the way. Let them come. I'm just saying from a experience situation, let somebody make that difference, because if that dad wants to take that responsibility, that's okay, because you did your job by calling them. Okay? You weren't sure what to do, and that's the key. Call that number. And the question comes up, wait a minute, if they come all out there, who's going to pay the bill? You know what? It's got to the point where if you don't transport anybody, you know, most of those places will not charge. But you did your job. You know, you made that phone call and you got help coming. How many of you are out here in Big Sabo? All right, you made a phone call from here right now to 911 where you had somebody that's having a heart attack. How long do you think it might take to get an ambulance out here? Okay, 15 or so minutes. And if they're not busy in town because, you know, they're not supposed to be, you know, they might have to come from somewhere else. So you have that first line of offense, I guess, if you want to put it that way. You can make a difference in someone's life. Up here, Hannah says she's never seen an AED. Or Kay says she's never seen an AED over here. I hope you never have to see one. Hope you never have to use one. It's there. There's a fire extinguisher on the back wall back there. I hope you never have to use that. Test question. Anybody know how to use a fire extinguisher? Anybody know the mnemonic that we use for it?
Pass.
Huh? Who said that?
Pass.
What's it mean?
Pull the pin, aim, squeeze,
Sweet.
and...
That one, yeah. So you got it. For you. Good job. You might be one of them. You know, knowing those things. It's, you know, you're working with somebody that you're, you know, at these lighthouses, maybe you know, maybe you don't. You know, should you know about health concerns with the people you work with? And I love coming here because there's usually somebody that's either diabetic, somebody that's had a heart attack, somebody that's, those family members have had a stroke, somebody that has allergic reaction. Okay? Anybody carry an EpiPen in here? Anybody ever had to use one before? Okay? Somebody that, how long ago?
I'd say I retired in August, about 18 months ago.
Okay. These are things that are at the schools now. My wife was just telling me that they have to give insulin shots for somebody in a diabetic situation. I'm going, holy crap, who takes the responsibility for that? So I'm going, wow. You know, so, you know, and EpiPens, oh my gosh, I've heard about them. I got a plastic one or a practice one in here, but that can be a little scary situation. Diabetics. Anybody had a heart attack in here before? All right? I always like to have somebody that's in a class because that way we, you know, who else better to ask than somebody that's had a situation. So these are all situations we'll hit in a very short period of time. All right, who's come from the farthest? Who's come from out of Michigan? How many miles from here?
Oh, I know Chicago.
Chicago?
410, Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, ooh, yeah.
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. Anybody beat Oklahoma City? Well, wait a minute. Oklahoma City. You got cows out in Oklahoma City? Well, then you better scratch off this cash cow right now before you leave. It's only good in Michigan. All right. I read a little joke the other day because it was Easter. You know what they call 10 rabbits marching backwards in a line? Receding hairline, yeah. Hey, I gotta have something. I'm gonna leave also some of these books here. They're a first aid guide book dealing with, you know, certain things you might run across. You know, if you get a chance, look at it. I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm not gonna make an expert. But again, what do I do if? You know, what do I do if that kid fell through the stairs? Or, wait a minute, all visitors that come to the lighthouse are going to mind your rules. Right? Yeah, right. Okay? They came here for a reason, they're going to do a hell or high water. And they're going to want to get up there, you know, they're going to bend the rules. They're going to try to have you bend the rules. Okay, stand your ground. You know what? Stand your ground because, you know, the more it happens, better chance of having something happen. and you think about it, hopefully you have a safe summer. But the amount of visitors that come to all these lighthouses in a year, chances are that something's gonna happen. All right, here's my, I have several snippets that I use. One of them is, if you don't want to look at it, cover it up. Blood, you know, broken bones, things that might happen, cover it up. Another one is, it's better to do something you shouldn't have versus something you should have and didn't. Lee Free, Sam Bernstein, Jeffrey Feiger, they're out there to make a buck. And if you don't think somebody's not going to try to sue you, wait a minute, you're in charge, how come you didn't do this and this and this? I made a phone call, that's all they told me to do. Okay, I did what I could do. You know, I got a first aid kit I put together. What do we put in a basic first aid kit? Basic stuff. Band-aids, a few, you know, and get a box, you know, we'll put a box of ones for kids. You know how to shut up a young kid that's screaming? Put a Superman Band-aid on there. It works. Clean it up, oh, I'm good. That's the way it works with kids. You know, maybe a little bit of Neosporin in there to put on there too. Maybe some triangular bandages, some cold packs, different size, you know, gauzes, 4x4s, maybe a couple 5x9s. But cold packs, ice packs. Keep it simple. Because the more things we put in it, the more confusion. No medical people answer this question. Who knows what a sphygmomanometer is?
Blood pressure.
How do you know that?
I don't know.
How did it come right out of your head?
Well, it's because I have one.
Huh? You have one?
I use a blood pressure gun.
Why?
Check
high blood pressure? Okay.
Monitor my blood pressure.
Very good. I've been thinking of it, I would have that. All right. So again, we can make it really confusing. What do I get out of there? All right. So let's talk about some medical emergencies right off the bat, first thing. What are we going to run across? Well, seasonal situations. Spring's not bad now, we can all breathe pretty well. But May 1st, that gate's going to be open, and people are going to start humping out to the lighthouse here. How far is it?
2 miles.
Oh, confusion. Where's the book?
1.8 miles from here.
1.8 miles from here. You better know that, because they're going to ask you. All right? So, you've got somebody that, you know, you got grandpa that came along with the family, or grandma, whatever, or somebody that has a breathing medical condition. They figure, hey, you know what, I've been doing pretty good this winter. Let's walk out there. Okay? They get to the front steps, and somebody comes running into you and says, oh my gosh, come out, see my dad out there. He's wheezing and puffing and can't breathe very well. First of all, your eyes are going to go, boing. What do I do now? Okay? What would you do now?
Ask them if they have an inhaler.
Okay. And naturally, it's in the car back here in the parking lot. Didn't want to carry it. You got one. Would you give me yours?
No.
Never. Okay? That's another thing. Don't give one of the things you have. All right, now what? He's, hey, get all that big around again.
Breathing through your mouth.
Water.
Shade.
No water?
I wouldn't know water. There's only a couple situations we're going to get water. We'll get to those. Sit down, calm them down as much as possible. Encourage their breathing. Would you make the phone call to 911 under these circumstances? No. It's not getting any better.
Oh, call 911.
Yeah. It's beyond what you think is good. You know what? I'm going to call them anyway.
Could be an asthma attack.
Yes, could be an asthma attack. Could be something that just came on. Sports-induced asthma. Have you ever heard of that before, man? Somebody for the first time walking out there, going, I've never had this before. Panic. All right, so stay with them. The other thing is you're going to have people all around. Crowd control. I heard her talk about crowd control. Yep. Unless somebody's volunteers their help, you know what? Keep the crowd back. Just like driving down the highway and you got an accident scene. Let everybody want to drive by, rubberneck looking at them. Okay? So, and here's the tough one that you might have to think about. Be confident in what you're doing. Calming and reassuring someone is great therapy.
I work in a school office, and the kids will come in and say they can't breathe. And some of the things I like to tell them is your color looks good, you're obviously getting oxygen to your brain,
Okay.
you're able to talk to me, you don't sound like you're in distress.
Okay.
You can put your hand on your stomach and feel your breath, you're actually breathing, even if you feel like you're not, that kind of
Very good. There used to be, well, those people, they get a little hyperventilating. What used to, in the history of this kind of problem, what would you do? Get the bag. Some people don't do that. Okay? In the ambulance, I used to kind of do that. I would, all right, I'm going to put some oxygen on you. All right, what I would do is not turn the oxygen on. And it worked because they were breathing back their own stuff and it was settling back down. Okay? But it worked. No paper bags. But again, the reassurance that you give them is really, really important. There's no medicine you're going to give them. It's what you would do and make that phone call and be prepared because it could be 15 or 20 minutes. Okay? So we got asthma situations. Let's talk about middle of summer. Humidity. Wait a minute, Michigan, we have a little bit of humidity. Okay? It's 80 degrees and 82% humidity. So I could walk from here to the parking lot and I would sweat because, I'd rather have it too cold, but that's just me. So we get somebody out there and they're sitting on the front porch. You just have to go and check, just do a walk around. Somebody's sitting out there, man, they don't look good. Okay, they just don't look good. By looking at people, you're going to tell those situations. Sweating profusely. Okay, what's going on? I don't feel good. Yeah, you're really sweating, really sweating. Yeah, I know. Okay, I just don't feel well at all. And just there's sweat. All right? Maybe there's a heat condition. We have heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Okay? Heat cramps you're going to know. Sometimes you'll get lack of water on a hot day. Your fingers sometimes will cramp up. Maybe your toes or the back of your legs will cramp up. You see the athletes all the time. There's cramps. There's lack of salts in your system. Okay? In this case, you don't want that person. What would be the best thing we could give them?
Powerade.
Something that has some electrolytes in it. Water's okay, but it doesn't have the electrolytes in it. So go into the shop and get something and give it to them. First of all, take them out of the source. That would help, if you can. Get them in shape. All right, you sit there with them for a few minutes and they're feeling a little bit better, but the color's not changing. And they're going, man, I just don't really feel well at all. Next thing you know, you notice that they quit sweating. Face is turning all red. But man, I don't feel well at all. I can't. I'm just feeling sick. I'm just feeling really sick. Okay? Skin looks hot, dry, and red. Now, we've got this. There are only a few true emergencies in first aid. This is one of them. This is called heat stroke. Okay? One, you're going to see cold, clammy skin, heat exhaustion. We can work it out. If you got some water, maybe sometimes you can dump some water on them, especially on the head, because that's where a lot of our heat comes from. But if you have hot, dry, red skin, this is one that you need 911 now. Okay? If they want to drink something, have them. If they don't, tell them. If you've got some towels around, you got their shirt on, I don't care, put some water on them. If you've got some ice packs under the armpits, okay, I would usually say walk them out into Lake Michigan. That'll cool them down really well, but we're not going to do that. But ice packs under here, the back of the neck. Okay? And watch for changes because heat stroke can lead to seizures. Okay? And that's a bad situation. If there's maybe a car with some air conditioning, but we don't have cars out there, you could put somebody in it with an air conditioned car too. But again, that seasonal situation that we have here in Michigan. Let's reverse it. Let's talk about the cold. Hypothermia. If you've been cold before, hypothermia, my fingers, man, I just feel, in your toes. Wait a minute, cold. Well, what happens? Well, your body says, I need all that warm blood, my brain, my heart, my lungs, my liver, and my kidneys. So I'm going to take it from here. I'm going to take it from here. That's why we get cold. Body starts shivering. Does it have to be 20,000 degrees below zero? Could it be 40 degrees with a mist, wind? Yes. So the family trudges out there, and we got to go out there just shivering like a son of a gun. It's wet and everything else. Get them inside. Get the wet clothing off the best as possible. Okay? He's gonna say, you know, coffee would really help. Negative. No alcohol, no coffee, no. I wouldn't give it anything by mouth at this time yet. All right, now, take the gloves off and you see a white, waxy, you know, coloration to the fingers. Frostbite. All right, here's where I get a little bit of a problem. Frostbite, and how do we warm frostbite fingers and toes? We immerse them in what kind of water? All right, those of you that said cold, wrong. Warm, tepid water. And here's the reason why. Because this is all left from here, all right? Warm, tepid water says, hey, wait a minute, the body's changing temperature. It invites that circulation to come back out into the fingers and toes. So there's been a myth forever. Cold water, not gonna work. Warm, tepid water. You know for a fact, if you've ever done that before, and you drink, put your hand under some warm water, you get that tingling. That's okay, that means the circulation's coming back. And again, this situation, if it changes and they get better, that's fine. Then it might be all right. If it doesn't change, you still might need to make that phone call. All right, let's try diabetics. How many know diabetic? And I already asked, nobody is one, right?
Oh, yeah.
You are a diabetic? All right, so, well, let's see. You carry, are you hypo or hyper? Hyper? Hypo. What's that mean to any of you here? Okay, he has low blood sugar. How do you think we might know? You're going to know, but anybody else in here might not know. How you might determine that he's having a diabetic reaction, diabetic situation. From what we've learned in the past, what do you know? How's he going to act? Sluggish. Could be. Odor of, this is one thing that the police used to do. How about the odor on his breath? Fruity?
Yeah, fruity, like sugary.
Yeah, like an alcohol situation. Quite often we'd get calls from the police that would say, hey, I got the drunk down here again. And really, a lot of times it was a diabetic situation. All right? So he's unconscious outside the door. All right? Didn't look good. He's breathing. Slow. You know, really sluggish. Do we give him anything? What'd you say?
911.
Okay, they're on the way. How about now, between now and 15 minutes, what can we do for him in this case? What I'm looking for is to give him anything. What?
Sugar.
Maybe.
How do we know again, his diabetic situation?
Okay? Here's the deal. If he's acting where it possibly could be, giving him sweets will not hurt. Key is, look for break. Do you have identifier? Any kind of identifier on you? Okay? And that's funny because a lot of us in here are more apt to have some kind of identifier versus the young kids. Because they don't want people to know. I want somebody to know, you know, is that I do have that. But the sugar's not going to hurt him if we give it to him.
No, you said he was unconscious.
Oh, if he's unconscious, I'm sorry, yeah, unconscious, nothing goes in. My bad. If he's unconscious, nothing goes in. If he's conscious and sluggish, we might be able to give him some orange juice if he can take it. When in doubt, make a phone call. Make the phone call and watch for changes. Okay? Watch for changes. Maybe somebody knows that he is. Ask him. Okay? And if he's not sure, maybe he's sitting here like this, not just staring up at me. He hasn't changed his eyes since we've been here. You know what's going on. You think it's Monday. That's a pretty good indicator that I'm going, are you a diabetic? I think so. But that could be, that's how they act sometimes. You know what? You're not sure. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give him something. If you can answer those questions, I'm going to give him, I'm preference of fluids versus solids. Orange juice really works well. Why? Is there any orange juice back there? You know, we say that. We got to have something available. But something that has sugars in it. Orange juice is really good. And then watch for other changes. Because what that does is that spikes your sugar up really quick. Okay? Cool, I'm good. You know, and he'll wake right up. Wow, where am I? Oh, I'm sitting in here. But then watch for changes because it can go back down again. Have you ever had that happen like that?
Mine's pretty well secure.
Okay, okay. But those are situations. By the way, we have an epidemic of childhood diabetes. Childhood diabetes. So again, families are really up on that stuff, and hopefully they can take care of it. You got the diabetic situation. How about seizures? That's another one. It's a scary one. Okay, now when I was growing up, my mother had seizures, and my father would always go stick something in my mother's mouth.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Nothing goes in the mouth. Okay? Because it was always what? They're going to swallow their tongue. You can't. Try it. But what happens is when that seizure is going on and it's completed, and the person's laying on their back, in any unconscious individual, the tongue will relax on the back. Okay? Here's the deal. I don't care any situation somebody is unresponsive. Lift the chin up. That pulls that tongue off the back of the throat. Any unconscious individual, pull that up like this. Now, somebody that's had a seizure, maybe they'll wake up. Or they may just be staring at you. Their body is going through a transition part, there's names for it, but it's the seizure thing that happens. It could be an arm, it could be half of the body, okay? It could be just a stare off into space. But most of the time you're going to see a full, what they call full body or a grand mal seizure. The key is, take my glasses off, if I'm down flopping on the floor, you can protect my head, get the chairs out of the way, and let the seizure run its course. Get others out of the way unless they know what they're doing or it's a family member. Okay? It's an embarrassing time maybe for this individual. And once they wake up, again, they may talk to you, may not. Yep, I think I had a seizure. Because a lot of times, people that have epilepsy will have a little feeling of aura before that seizure happens. But it's a scary, just next thing they flop right off the, oh my gosh. Watch for head injuries, because if they just fall down on the ground, protect their head. Let the seizure run its course, and watch for changes when it happens. Okay? Do I make a phone call?
Not necessarily.
Okay? I've never seen one. How many's never seen a seizure happen before? Okay? Would you go on one if you saw he just flopped down on the floor and started,
Not right away.
Okay.
If it goes more than 5 minutes.
Huh?
If it goes more than 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's that you need to call. Right?
Because what happens, the body constricts so hard, you don't breathe really. Don't try holding their body down. Okay? And you're going, okay, if the seizure subsides, or they could have one right after another. Again, that's another emergency situation. EMS can get here. And I believe they carry the drug up here. It's some Versed, which they can give, which will lyse that seizure, hopefully. But it's a scary situation. Now, the other thing is, a child that comes out for visitation, and they have one. Do you have two patients now? You have a child and you have parents. Because if they've never seen one, what do you think they're going to be doing? Especially if it's the first one. Or if it's not, they may be able to take care of the situation. What would you like me to do for you? Do you want me to call 911? No. We've handled this before, it's happened, and let us just run with it. Okay, well that's good. So again, seizures. How about heart attacks? He's walking out for his first time out to he's getting up there. God dang, he walks in, he says, hey, not feeling very well. Can I get a drink of water? He's looking terrible. He's looking really pale and are you all right? Typical male, yeah, I'm all right. Right? Typical male, I'll be all right. Nothing wrong with me. I'm not old enough to have a heart attack. Yeah, right. Okay. That's the way it works. All right. You recognize.
I was out of the country when it happened, so.
You were? Okay. All right. So where did it happen at? At home?
Yes.
Okay. What happened?
I was getting pains.
Yep.
But not the typical.
Okay.
None of the typical stuff. No sweating. No.
All right.
The arms.
Yep.
No pain down the side. I would walk. I'd get a pain in my chest. As soon as I sat down, the pain subsided.
Okay.
I'd walk. I got the pain in the chest.
Yep.
And subsided. So I went to the doctor. I did an EKG. The EKG showed completely normal.
Everything was okay then.
I thought. And he says, well, I'm gonna go on the side of caution, I'm gonna give you a blood test. She says, well, if I don't call you within 2 hours, just go see your own doctor. He called me. He says, get to the emergency room right away.
Really?
Like a dummy, I drove myself to the emergency room.
Yay! Well, I'm good, I'm trying myself. I'm good.
And believe me, I got chastised by the head doctor in the emergency room.
I'm sure you did.
The next morning, they took me to surgery. I was first one 8 o'clock. I was 99% blocked on a widowmaker.
Really? Yeah, oh, yeah.
Widowmaker.
Yep.
If I would have waited a little bit longer, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this conversation.
Yep.
I wasn't there for him to discuss this with me, telling him, let's wait and see.
So they put a stent in, so I gotta say.
Okay. And again, it's a success story, just some of the stuff that happened isn't the right way, but it is a typical humans.
Sure.
You know, I'm not gonna, oh, I think I'm having a heart attack, so I've got to call embarrassing situation. Wait a minute, can't have that, never had that before. And sometimes you don't have those typical, I can't breathe, I just don't get up and sit down it. And my arm numbness and tingling. Wait a minute, that guy in that class says they gotta have all those things before I can have a heart attack. BS, okay? Women, by the way, you're different than men. That's a joke. You sometimes maybe have just back pain. Maybe a little anxiety situation. Maybe just abdominal pain. You know, it's one of those ones, wait a minute, I didn't have it like my husband did. So again, it's one of those, you know, do I do it? Do I go get checked out? When in doubt, get it checked out. You know, same with it, maybe you walk out there and you're not looking well. Now, what do we do for him in 20 minutes when it takes the ambulance to get there? Do we give him some aspirin?
Do all the lighthouses have an AED?
Do all the lighthouses have AEDs?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Okay? Now, the word is, well, we can give him some aspirin.
No.
Do we give him some aspirin?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't give him any medicine at this time. Aspirin's not gonna make any difference anyway, it just thins the blood out in that area. Wait a minute. I got my nitro in my pocket. Can I give him my nitro? No. Okay? He's really thirsty. Should I give him something to drink? I would keep it away from that right now. Cool, calm, and collected. Made the phone call, watch for changes. Okay? How many are trained in CPR? Awesome! All right, here's the test question. All right, there we go. Who back here in this room? You got anybody?
Yeah.
How many compressions?
5 or
50. Don't stop.
How many?
keep going.
You cheated, told them. Okay? Close. Another one.
30.
30 compressions?
Yeah.
And if you're going to have ventilations? 2. You're right. But, wait a minute. How many of you are going to do true mouth to mouth on each other in here? You're looking around already. And you're going, okay, well, maybe not, maybe not. Or maybe I'm just going to do this. 1, 2. Okay? But the idea is, if you're not sure, just get on the chest. And it's changed throughout so many times throughout the years. You know, way back we used to find this pot up here in 2 fingers. Now it's in the center of the chest at the nipple line, on the chest. Okay? And if you know what, wait a minute, I'm not trained in CPR, should I do it? If you don't feel comfortable, don't. You know? If you do, get on the chest, away you go. 30 and 2, the rest won't do. Okay? At a rate of 100. Staying alive, staying alive. Or another one bites the dust. Or what did I learn from Heather? Huh? No, the bubble one. Bubble shark, baby shark.
Baby shark.
Baby shark, baby shark, you know, that's another one. Once you get going, keep going. If you don't want to give the breath, that was one of the things we changed because, wait a minute, maybe we've got, you know, injury to the nose, maybe we got injury to the mouth, maybe I just don't want to. But at least if we do this, just remember, if I compress the chest, I'm blowing and pushing the air out. What happens when the chest recoils? It's taking at least a little bit of oxygen in, okay? And if you think of it, here's another test question. Percent of oxygen in this room right now?
18, 19, 21.
Close. 21%. When we inhale 21% oxygen. How much does our brain use out of that 21, do you think? Some more than others, I think, but what's the typical? We only use 5 to 6% each time. So the reason, we've done CPR forever and ever and ever is when we blow in there, we're blowing in 15 to 16% oxygen. That's why we did CPR, if you decided to give the ventilations. But again, at least if we do this, if we get some back in there, it keeps things going. Okay? So again, I'm not telling you that you have to, I'm just telling you that you can. Center the chest. This is one of those ones, I'm not really trained, it's been 30 years since I've done it. Well, we know that we got to do it here. Okay? We know, gosh, am I going to get in trouble? You think? No. I did something, wait a minute, I just, this back to that one. I did something I don't think I should have, but I did it because,
Good Samaritan Act.
the Good Samaritan Act protects you in the state of Michigan. You did what any other prudent person would under the same circumstances. What are the chances of survival if you don't?
0.
Zero. What are the chances of survival if you do?
Better.
Better than zero. We don't know. We don't know. So I guess that's one of the reasons too. And as long as we're at that part of it, let me just show you this little device. By the way, what does AED stand for?
External defibrillator.
One.
Well, you don't have to put it on.
I'm not gonna. I got to go back here because Kathy was getting close. She was trying.
I've been working
Good,
on
good.
it.
All right. And again, scary device. They come in all kinds of sizes, ranges. We've had the one from down at Big Sable before. But again, this is the same thing that the paramedics use, basically. Same kind of charging system. And they're usually done, it's charged by batteries. Sometimes camera batteries, sometimes, small batteries, but they're in the chain enough to knock you on your keister. All right. So the key is simple as can be. Comes with 2 patches. And again, whatever one you're working at, you might familiarize yourself with it down there. They come big, pattern, infant ones too, or kids. Let's turn it on and see what it says. They used to not talk to you, but now they talk to you.
This is a training device only. No shock will be delivered. Remove clothing from person's chest.
All right, this is a good time to have others away from you. When it says remove
Attach
clothing.
pads firmly to person's chest, as shown.
I just want you to listen to it first. Now,
Plug in connector.
it won't do anything until you get to this point.
Check connector and pads.
Okay, the pads aren't in there yet. So you can pretend that I have my shirt off.
Check connector
The
and
pads show you where to put them. On the person.
check connector
Dry
and
skin. One here, one up here. Your heart beats
check connector
top
and pads.
this way. Yes, I hear you. Okay, but like it says,
Connector and pad analyzing rhythm.
it's trying to find out.
Everyone stand clear.
I'm clear, you're clear, we're all clear.
Shock
Oh, I
advised.
hate this part.
Everyone stand clear. Everyone stand clear. Push the shock button.
Watch me.
Shock delivered. Begin 5 cycles of CPR.
Now this machine, most of them are all the same way now. It'll go in if you're start CPR, start CPR, start CPR. When it says 2 minutes, or what we call, it's 5 cycles, 32, 2 minutes, you're priming the pump. Okay, you're priming the pump. Put some oxygen in the system so that, hey, it's shockable. Again, so in 2 minutes it says stop CPR, analyzing heart rhythm. It may say shock again. Just do
1
what it
minute and
says.
30 seconds of CPR remain.
Okay? I just want you to be aware they're out there. The key is, it's not going to shock somebody that has a regular rhythm. It knows what it wants to shock. Okay? So it doesn't matter if you put it on just because it's a precaution. It's not going to shock somebody. But it does, do it if it needs it. Now,
So, at one point, I thought that you were supposed to do some sort of assessment, in the sense that if they're breathing, there's no reason to do that at all.
That's correct, yep. Yep. And maybe we're not sure. You can still put it on. It's not gonna do anything if you're not sure. I could have even put him on him sitting here. You know, paramedics come, they can run a 12 lead, 15 lead EKG. But if he's having those symptoms, I've got my patches on. It's not gonna do anything. But all of a sudden he crashes, I'm ready. So you're gonna do an assessment, ABCs, airway, breathing, and circulation. You know, if you do CPR and it's been a while, did you check a pulse when you did CPR before?
Yes.
We don't do that anymore. But if you want to, Adam's apple, 2 or 3 fingers on the side that you're on, press it in there, right between that big muscle and the windpipe. Problem is, sometimes we can talk ourselves into a pulse. So what they've changed is, if you don't think there's a pulse and the chest isn't rising, get on it, from whatever reason. So you're right on the assessment, airway, breathing, and circulation. If the chest is moving up and down, we know they're there. Okay? We just don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's not going to hurt to put those on. Nothing's going to change. Okay? Does that answer? Okay. Nosebleeds. There's one of the ones you're... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Got it?
When we're doing the chest, whether with that or whether we're doing it manually, and we're not doing mouth to mouth, are we tilting back?
On the adult, it's if there's 2 people, somebody can hold it back, sure. If not, the adult is going to stay back for the most part. Okay? Because again, our noggin is if you got somebody, you start pushing, it's going to move and it's going to stay back. Yep. Good question. Good question. Bleeding, nosebleeds. All right? I run across, this is another one of those questions. Somebody ran into one of the stairs going up the spiral. Got a nosebleed. How do I control a nosebleed? We know we're going to pinch it, lean which way? Wow, everybody agree with forward? Awesome, it is forward. Because if you just had lunch or something and you pinch it, go this way, where's it going to go? Down in the stomach. And stomach and food, let's see, blood and food doesn't get along very well and you could get caca. Okay, as a result of it. So pinch forward, okay? And you can also use pull packs on the nose, back of the neck. You can take a couple of your gauze pads and put it underneath there like the dentists do when they put those in under your lips. Press on it here, you got some vessels that can help stop it there. So nosebleeds can get a little scary. Broken bones. Somebody holding on to the ladder coming down, well, I'll put it this way. Coming down the stairs at one of the lighthouses, steps, wrong, lands on the ground, stumbles, and somebody says, we need some help out there. Next thing you know, you get out there and you see an ankle going this way, the wrong way. Your first response is what? Does that hurt? And that's the other thing. You gotta stay calm, but sometimes you're going, oh, that looks really bad. Don't say that. Okay, actions will speak louder than words in this case. Well, what do I do with it? Do we grab this person and put him inside?
No.
Okay, can we treat it right there? No. Do we straighten it? No. First aid is basically a common sense thing. All right, here's one of those ones. I don't want to look at it, so I cover it up. All right, so what do I cover it up with? How can I help with it? Huh?
Anything if it's handy.
Could I use, wait a minute, I'm staying here. Could I say, hey, you know what, somebody go upstairs and grab my pillow? Could I use a pillow?
Sure.
Could I wrap it up in a pillow? The ankle?
No.
Why not?
No. You shouldn't probably, you don't want
Wait a minute, the bone's sticking out.
Call 911.
They're on the way. This is one of those cases where you don't need to move somebody if you don't. Again, keep them from being chilled or overheated. Okay? And watch. Don't let them try to straighten it. Okay? This is the one where I might want to just cover it up so that we're not all looking at it because they can go into shock looking at it. Alright? Dislocation. Maybe it's just dislocated. Anybody ever had a dislocation before? They hurt. Do we straighten them?
No.
Okay. The Mel Gibson, if you ever watched the one Mel Gibson, you know, he had the shoulder would always come out of place and he's always banging up against something, knock it back into place. No. Okay? Not going to happen. the key is, because you have vessels around those sockets, about the time you pop one back in place, the vessel can get caught in between that socket, and now you got a true emergency need operation. So what do we do with it? How can we control dislocated shoulder? It's gonna look like this.
You're gonna get medical people to transport.
Right? How can I immobilize it? You know, I don't want you to do splinting. What can I do?
We're gonna move it.
You don't have to, but you can immobilize it.
You can put pillows around it.
What if I took my old jacket? Did I tie my jacket around this person against my body? Certainly. You immobilize it in place. So if I got something long enough that I can tie it around there, I don't care. If I got some good sleeves, I can tie that around there. At least I'm immobilizing it, keeping it from moving some more. Have them sit down or in a comfortable position. But you
You
can,
also have your 911 personnel coming, and if they want to immobilize it, they can immobilize it.
if you choose to do that, sure. But this is the one that you can do. I mean, if you want to. If you don't feel comfortable, don't, let them. Sprains and strains. Do we put cold on sprains and strains or warm on sprains and strains? On both? Yes. Think of it this side. Anyway, anytime your body gets injured, what does it have a tendency to do? What does cold do to swelling? It helps reduce it. You also, in some of those first aid books, you might see what they call RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation. Rest it, ice it, cold packs. You know, compression, it talks about ace bandages. You know, and if you got some ice over the top of that, then I could put it and hold it in place and elevate it up above the level of the heart. Maybe it's one of your people at the Lighthouse. Maybe it's you, maybe it's one of your helpers. So just things to think about. What's another? Head injuries. Head injuries. We have a lot of head injuries worrying about concussions. Anybody know what a great sign of concussion might be?
Throwing up.
Throwing up's a good one. Your pupils, you look at it, they look good. Maybe their pupils are unequal. Confusion. Okay. Loss of balance a little bit. What do we do for a concussion person? Look what they're doing today. Look what they're finding out in the sports world. Does it happen right now? You might not have it. The after effects, you know, is wow. So again, head injuries, treat them seriously, especially if you see changes in the level of the consciousness of that individual. Again, you got that famous number, 911, and watch them. The key is making sure you watch them. One other one. Oh, bloodborne pathogens. We got to hit bloodborne pathogens. Here's my theory. If it's wet and sticky and not yours, don't touch it. If it's wet and sticky and not yours, and you get it on you, wash it off. Right? If you got gloves, how many have a pair of gloves, rubber gloves in their pocket right now? We don't carry them with us. But wash your hands. If you have an exposure, and I already heard it, if you have an exposure yourself, report it. Document it. Now, wait a minute, do I have an exposure or do I have to go get checked? Is there I think we talked about that before. What happens if we have an incident where maybe they have, and again, blood won't cross the intact skin. How many have perfect cuticles around their fingernails? And it's funny, most of the classes I get men to look at their cuticles. Yeah. Pedicure last week, you know, pretty good stuff. And again, you can have little cuts and scrapes. Doesn't mean you're going to get something, it just means you have an exposure. So again, you may have to call Rachel, hey, you know what, this just happened out here, and what should I do? She may direct you to go do something. But again, and again, with blood, what's the one that's more common to catch? Is it the AIDS virus or hepatitis virus? Hepatitis. Hepatitis can live in a dry form up to 7 days, 7 to 10 days. Okay? Just likes to be out there. And again, we have a lot of hepatitis showing up.
Go back to the nosebleed side.
Yep, yep.
So that's blood. Are we directing them on what they're supposed to do?
You can. That way you don't have to touch them.
Okay.
If they feel they can do that, hey, you know what? Hey, here's a gauze pad. Why don't you just hold up your nose? Lean forward. Usually they're going to be in a conscious scenario that, you know what, they're going to be able to handle it themselves. Yeah. sometimes people with high blood pressure, their nose will just start bleeding anyway. That's a relief valve. They're gonna know that. In this case, maybe he's got the, God, you don't want, I just picked it and something came out. And yep, take this gauze pad that we got in the first aid kit, fix it up in here and hold on to it. And lean forward.
I'm assuming that our kids have gloves in.
I believe so. Kids have gloves in them? Yes. Yep. That way your least amount of touching, contact, makes a difference. So yes, good point.
This is the exception, right, not the rule. I mean, this isn't often happening.
Nosebleeds?
No, the whole thing.
Anything?
Right, I mean, as in your history of your Lighthouse volunteers, how often are they doing CPR?
Sorry,
Not very often.
CPR?
Yeah.
We haven't,
Knock on wood.
Right. Yeah.
We hope not.
I just don't want to be really scared.
No, you know what? It's just, but then again, the multitude that's going to visit, the more risk you have that something could happen. And again, if all you want to do is to make the call, you've done your job. You're not required to go out and do this. We're just saying that, you know, if you feel comfortable enough, do it. Hey, you know what? I got them coming. You can go out and tell people, here's what's going on. There may be somebody in the crowd that knows what to do too. You've done your job by making that phone call. It's beyond what you think you can do. Good question. Nosebleeds, what was there anything else? I was trying to think. And again, every day is going to be different. We can't say that tomorrow you're going to have this or that, but let's look at a couple more. I think, we got any time left? You tell me.
just a couple minutes.
Dang it.
Bee stings.
Bee stings, oh yeah, good one. Bee stings and ticks. We have ticks up here?
Yeah.
Oh. My stepson got a tick a couple weeks ago. Caught him right up here, wasn't it? Yep. He sent me this picture, this big old red mark in his skin, all red around the outside. Well, you know what? He got it. He Googled ticks, and it said put something hot on a tick bite. Not happening. Okay? But if a tick does get in there and is recognized, and you see, you know, I would inspect yourself. The whole tick has to be removed. The whole tick. A lot of times the body breaks off and the head's still in there. That's where the problem occurs. If you start seeing a change in the color of the skin, or you start seeing a bullseye around there, a lot of times it's indicating, oh, we didn't get everything out. So you may have to go and get a shot and somebody else pick it up. You know, having some, maybe ladies, you got some tweezers with you. Hold the tick out, the whole thing with tweezers. Cover it up. Okay, so our ticks are out there. Bee stings. Anybody allergic to bee stings? Got one. You have an EpiPen?
No.
How bad do you get?
I have to go to the hospital if I get stung. Wait, is that what you're asking? What are you asking?
So you need to go to the hospital. Have you ever had an EpiPen assigned to you?
I should, but I don't.
You just answered the own question right there.
I'm trying my best to avoid these.
Yes. You just answered your own question. I should, but I didn't. That's, you know, that's one of those things we do. And that's one of those things as humans, we think, I should, but I didn't. Oh, there it is. All right. Here's an EpiPen. By the way, how do you get a bee sting out? Somebody still, all right. Home remedies, see, I do this and this and this. Take your, if you got a billfold, purse, whatever, take out a credit card, driver's license. The best way is to do a little scraping back and forth. Get it out. If you see changes in color of the skin, something cold, helps reduce that. Also, in case of this young lady gets stung right over there, she might start breathing pretty funny. True emergency. Bing, 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 call them. Because she's got time, not a lot of time, this airway's gonna close off and she's... Do you have breathing problems when it happens?
I start hyperventilating.
Yep. Your tongue gets heavy?
No, it's more like I swell up and then I just start panicking and...
Yep, all right. This is what a EpiPen looks like. This is a trainer one that comes with a little cap on the end. All right, you pull the cap off, and the needle is in here. It's only a little dinky needle like this. It's called epinephrine that's in there. It opens up everything inside. And basically what you do is you hold it against the thigh, push it, and you'll hear that snap. Leave it in there for 10 to 15 seconds. Medication's administered. and you can apply for almost instantaneous, okay? This doesn't mean everything's gonna be okay. It buys time. It buys about 20 minutes. Okay? So again, some people will carry them, some people will not. This is a good one to know with the people you're working with. Hey, you know what? If I get stung by a bee and I start swelling up, I got this in my vehicle. Can you go get that and snap me with it? Right? Just lifesaver.
Can you get more than one?
No, only gets one shot out of this one.
I mean, I know that, but I mean, if they have a second one or?
I've heard of that happening if they've got two of them. If it doesn't get any better before EMS get there, I would not be hesitant to give another one. Yep. Again, it dilates everything in your lungs.
And you can go through close.
Yep, right there, and bam, whoops, like, status protector won't let you do anything with that in. Boom, there it goes. So, all right, I think we're out of time. Any quick questions? Yes?
Is there one of those in the EpiPen in emergency? No.
There, I don't think so. This is part of that beyond realm, okay? And some people will carry them in their junk bag and some not, but it's one of those, we have a basic first aid kit. Bandages, Band-Aids, duct tape, anything we can do. And again, if you don't want to look at it, cover it up.
EpiPens are cheap, that's probably why you don't see them in a lot of emergency bags.
You know why?
They're also prescription.
Yes, they're a prescription. You just can't go to the pharmacy and get one. The person that was making these really holds the American population because he raised the price about $600. That's terrible. But again, that's the American dream, I guess. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a great season out there. You have a safe season. If you have any questions, call Rachel.